Welcome in everybody to the Smite Open Circuit. Finch here. I'm joined by Aggro. He's over. No, he's over there. There he is over.
That's how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, he's over there on that side. You all can tell obviously right away that things are going to be a little bit different here with the broadcast that we're doing today. That's because, at least for right now, we're kind of staying home doing the broadcast from here, so you get a nice look at our various bedrooms and that sort of thing. So
yeah, it's actually a big dub because my dog will be in and out of this room. This is the bed she usually sleeps on, so this is actually far better in that regard at the very least.
Yeah, well, so that covers that. That's why the broadcast can be looking a bit different today. But we are doing the Smite Open Circuit Finals here in North America. And I think it actually should be a pretty good matchup, Ryan, just kind of for what we were seeing from some of these teams. It's Revenge Tour up against Nunya. I think Nunya is a team that might be a little bit more familiar name-wise. I mean, this is like Snaddy, JabamiChip, MySweetPatato, YarBadKid's on that team. You know, I don't quite know Revenge Tour as well. Keegs is on this team, though. He should be a bit familiar with, but that's about it for at least what I know. Is that about your read for these squads as well?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this squad of the console kids, the PS4 gang of YarBadKid and MySweetPatato and all that kind of stuff, like that group has gone on to do very well. Snaddy certainly included in that these Challenger Circuit things. So now that we're in the Open Qualifier and the Open Circuit, this is a team that you certainly have to watch out for. I do think that Keegs on the other side is certainly going to be the headliner for that team, but as long as you can keep him down, I'm assuming he's going to play mid. That's what he's been playing a lot of in ranked and that kind of stuff. Played a little bit of ADC in his past, but really primarily a mid laner. As long as they can keep Keegs down in that mid lane, I think that Snaddy and co are going to have a pretty good time.
I think so too, and these two teams must be pretty talented. There were some good teams in this pool. Hype Unit was in the pool. Yep. I think they fell out really early. This Oh Hey roster with like Haddix and Amuel and Oceans, like that's a pretty good roster, and they didn't make it this far either. So I'm expecting that if these are the two teams that kind of rose above all of that, then we should be getting a pretty good matchup here between these two squads. And like you said, there's a couple matchups to look at. I think where Keegs at is one to certainly keep your eye on. But I expect this to be a pretty good match.
I agree. I think that this is one of those that we might see some weird stuff happen, or we could see these teams kind of stick to the exact sort of meta that we saw. A lot of these lower end games, you know, we're into the open circuit now, so these are the teams that did not qualify into the challenger circuit. Mm-hmm. These level teams sometimes like to pull out the crazy strategies and do all this weird stuff. Sometimes they just follow the tier list kind of to the T. So we'll see which one it is.
And these finals are a best of 3, I believe, too. So we'll be able to, you'll get a couple chances. You won't just get cheesed right out of it, but certainly got to make sure that you're ready for whatever the other teams are going to be doing. So it's Revenge Tour in that first pick spot. Nunya going to get that last pick in response. And have you been surprised? I suppose we've really only seen like the SEC a little bit of some of that open bracket stuff too. Are you surprised at what we've seen valued so far, or has it kind of lined up with what you expected?
It's mostly what I expected. I think that we've all been a little bit surprised some of the mid lane picks. I know I tweeted about it a couple days ago about, you know, why are we seeing so much Scylla and Discordia and Vulcan, just gods that I think that there are better mid lane gods. I want to personally see more mid lane hunters. I think that we aren't seeing a whole lot of those right now. And with mage itemization really being strictly worse so far this year in my mind, hunters are looking pretty good with Rage, 2,300 gold.
Man, it's good, isn't it? Let's keep it right there.
I don't think we should. Personally, I think I'd rather not. But I just think that mid lane hunters is something that I would expect teams start to experiment with, especially with Xbalanque being back in the meta and getting a really big buff. I think that he's a pretty strong mid lane hunter that provides some decent kill pressure, if not that same level of mid lane clear that you're used to.
What about all this Sun Wukong? Why is that? I don't know. I don't know if I'm super sold on him over in solo lane. I think there are a lot of people who are high on that pick right now. He is very survivable, but I don't know, man. I feel like some of the picks have been a bit surprising.
I agree. Yeah, Wukong is just one of those gods that the players who like Wukong and play a lot of Wukong are going to pick him in a lot of different situations, even if maybe he's not the best selection necessarily at any given time. Wukong's always going to be okay, I suppose, but I certainly don't think of him as a top tier warrior right now.
All right, well, let's take a look at what we've got so far as bans so far. Heimdall, Persephone, Odin. I would say these are rather standard bans here so far. The Hell, a little bit surprising to me, but I think she has kind of been getting picked up a little bit more. The Bakasura, though, stands out. They are really worried about this Baka getting picked up if they're banning that out. There's still a lot of really high-value stuff. The Xing Chen still available. They do ban away the Merlin, but Yemoja obviously hasn't been picked yet to this point either. So a bit surprising they chose to ban Baka there.
I mean, honestly, Nunya's in a pretty good spot here, right? Because there's a lot of really strong picks on the table, but Revenge Tour only gets one. So let's say they take Yemoja, which is the logical one in my mind. That's the best god that you can take in this spot in my mind. So now you get what? Xing or Kukulkan or anything like that you can really set yourself up for a lot of success with. A lot of teams heavily prioritize Jing, so you can go that a little bit earlier on if you want to not pick up that Xing because you know that they have the Guardian on the other side. Looks like Xing will be the pick, but I feel like Nunya's in a pretty good spot here because you get another top tier god right away.
Yeah, I think there is something to be said when you're in the second pick and there's that much stuff of value, then maybe you leave enough of it open that you can get more on the backswing that they can. But these are two pretty strong first picks, right? Xing and the Kukulkan. Kukulkan really thought of as probably just the best mid laner right now, certainly high up there on the list. And we've seen that from him, haven't we? His control around the objectives has been really high. Those narrow jungle corridors too with his whirlwind is hard to deal with. I think that these are two pretty good first picks.
No, I think Kukulkan took less of a hit than most other mid laners with the itemization changes because he's going to kill you basically no matter what because he just gets so much power from the passive that losing flat pen, which is effectively a ton of power at the same time, doesn't affect him nearly as much because he gets more than that amount of power anyway, so it's not a big deal for him. And basically changing Whirlwind to be a viable ability in team fights, it basically added a whole damaging ability to the kit that he just didn't have before. And that ability does an awful lot of damage. So Kukulkan is definitely here to stay for a little bit in my mind.
Yeah, he's going to be using the nerd build, as I like to call it.
Again,
I am licensed to say that. Yeah,
right.
I am allowed.
Debate, by the way. Literally a collared shirt under a sweater, by the way.
Go ahead. Really good. Went to the NDT. That's invitation only, national level.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, national debate? Yeah,
yes,
okay, yeah. Super cool by you, for sure.
Xbalanque and Sobek were the next two picks here for Revenge Tour. And you were just talking about how you think Xbalanque is a lot stronger here now. They're going to pair that with the Sobek, which I do find a bit surprising because they already have the Yemoja. I don't know. How are you feeling about these first three picks?
Yeah, I think an Assassin there makes a little bit more sense for Revenge Tour because now you know that Yemoja is going mid or solo. Those are the other two places that you'd want to put them. I don't know. I don't think that the Sobek pick was super necessary in that slot. Why don't you just go Xbalanque Camazotz right there? And then you have three really strong picks to Nunya's two very strong picks so far. Now, Nunya could have gone Jing or something like that. I'd anticipate that Jing gets banned here by Revenge Tour, especially with their Hunter locked in and Nunya still needing one. It's also a great pick against Sobek and Yemoja because Yemoja can't riptide you towards your team. So that feels like where I'd be going for Revenge Tour's bans. But this Sobek pick took what it was, in my mind, a very strong first phase and weakened it considerably. Imagine that Camazotz on Revenge Tour's side and not Nunya. They're feeling pretty good about where they are. I think that Nunya should be feeling great about giving up, sure, Yemoja, Xbalanque, but we got Xing, Kukulkan, Camazotz. That's really strong.
Yeah, I'm very surprised by this ordering of the picks and bans. I mean, you can get Sobek, I think, basically at any point in this drafting phase, right? It's just not going to be contested.
The enemy team might ask you to play Sobek. Like, no one, it's not a threatening pick in my mind right now. Just not a top tier god.
I agree. I like this Unbots ban. They must be assuming that the Camazotz is not going jungle though, right? With the Daji and the Unbots ban, they're assuming that this is going to be Camazotz solo. And if that's the case, if that's like your hard read on that, then I think those are two pretty strong junglers to take off the table right now. So as long as that read is correct, then I'm okay with that. But obviously, if Camazotz ends up going jungle, it's a bit risky to use those bans that way.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, Jing is just the logical ban for me in that spot. She with Rage being good, anytime crit is good, Jing gets even better. Yep. And when you're picking gods that she does very well against, what do you know? They're going to pick it because now when you charge Parade, instead of being tossed into the enemy team, you're catapulted out of there very, very easily. I'm very surprised and no Jing ban for Revenge Tour.
Yeah, I'm surprised too, and Nunya happy to pick that up. I don't know, Aggro. These four picks, I think you can make the argument that they've gotten the best god at their role, right? If you put them all in sort of the natural role that you would expect. This is a really good start to the draft here for Nunya. And now Revenge Tour going double Hunter with Xbalanque and Ho Yi. I mean, if you're gonna go double Hunter, I think that these are two good Hunters to do it. I don't know, I'm just a bit surprised. They're gonna be hurting for some magic damage.
Yeah, they will be. They also need some AoE damage. Provides a little bit of that.
He does.
But Vamana certainly doesn't. So that looks like it's going to be Vamana jungle to me with I'd hope Yemoja support, not Yemoja solo. I think that you want Yemoja in as many fights as you can. But like I said, I think that Hunter's mid is something that I'm interested in right now. Keegs is a Hunter player. As I said, he played a lot of his time in ADC in a competitive setting. And I'd imagine that's going to be Hou Yi for him because Keegs also spends a lot of time on the dual map and is great on those dual-centric gods, Hou Yi certainly being one of them. I think he's got a great Hou Yi, but I just don't know that I love this composition from Revenge Tour. I think Nunya came away with a better draft for sure.
Let's go ahead and move into the actual game as we just resolved the picks and bans. Nunya rounded their draft out with the Ratatoskr pick here for JabamiChip. So that should give them a good deal of early presence, a good amount of setup for SweetPatato on this Kukulkan, I would think as well, too, as we are now getting the game actually moving here as well. So I think that they should be able to, I mean, I agree with you. I think Nunya just have the better draft here. I really don't know any other way to kind of call it.
Yeah, top to bottom. I mean, you look at it this way. If you're a Revenge Tour, which one of your gods would you rather have than their god? Yemoja over Xing? Sure, but that's close in my mind. Xbalanque over Jing, sure, but it's close. I don't really like their position here.
This is aggression from Revenge Tour up into Nunya's side of the jungle, and they already got space locked down. That's good early damage, but it is Jing. She should be able to get back relatively easily. Didn't have to use beads or anything like that. So I imagine Space is feeling a-okay with that, even though they did get some good damage. So Revenge Tour, I don't know if they really got exactly what they were looking for out of it.
No, I don't think so. I think that you're basically looking for the ability to gas pedal and kill someone at level 1. It's very, very simple to do, but you have to land that initial stun or else it's not going to happen.
Look where Snaddy is. Did he get this speed buff from War Machine?
He did. He didn't pick it up.
Jungle was going for.
War Machine had Hog, so I don't know. I was checking the inventory. War Machine had the ability to secure the objective with that Hand of the Gods. Must have used it too early and let Snaddy walk in there. Remember, folks, you're not using Hog at the very beginning in order to get everything going in your favor. You're using it at the very end to secure the buff in situations just like that.
And I like the idea. I mean, I know it's been a lot of supports coming in to look for those early invades, but solo laners can definitely do it and do exactly what Snaddy did. TP right back into lane, not miss out on any farm, and basically just set War Machine behind. This is Vamana jungle because of this odd draft that they've gone, so it's already a bit unorthodox, and you have a tough start like this, that's going to make the job for Revenge Tour, I think, that much harder.
And it's way better to do this sort of start for Snaddy when you're up against a pick that you know will never bully you out of lane, like Sobek. If that's Osiris, it's different.
Oh, this could be trouble though for Keegs. He's been caught out, locked down, and Nunya find first blood. They hand that over to JabamiChip, and they're little that is scarier than setting a god like a Ratatoskr off to a quick start. He gets first blood.
And it's going to make him that much closer to Acorn. He doesn't need to back in order to get that, so he can start pressuring side lanes very, very easily. And this is exactly what you didn't want to happen for Revenge Tour. Like I said, Keegs is kind of the guy that has to step up and be the leader for this team and kind of be the carry. Maybe it's a little bit too much pressure and maybe a little bit unfair, but that's just the reality of the situation, especially whenever you give up a draft like Revenge Tour gave up to Nunya. I mean, this is one of those teams that you play against in casuals and go, man, this is so unfair. They would never get a draft like this in ranked or something like that, or in competitive. It's an unrealistic team composition. Doesn't seem that way.
I agree, and MaIachi does manage to find the charge prey. That's difficult to do, especially in that choke point. You got to kind of weave it around the opposition there so you don't end up getting stopped or potentially caught out, but he makes it out of there, so things end up being a-okay. I want to ask you about this start, though, from Space. He starts with the short bow, and we have seen Hunter starting a lot of stuff. We've even seen Lightblade starts. Is starting off with Spike Gauntlet really just not that viable? Why are we seeing so many of these variances as red buff gets invaded and Snaddy finds a kill as well?
Snaddy's able to get a gank from JabamiChip. What do you know? With Blood Bounty, he gets his Acorn done and immediately goes to gank a side lane and sets up his side laners for a little bit more success. Going back to the Spike Gauntlet conversation, I do think that this is just kind of the time for experimentation. I don't think that it's so bad that you shouldn't be buying it ever, but with Space, he doesn't have to worry too much about sustain because he's Jing. He can go back to base and fly in all the time. So you get to kind of reset your laning phase much more easily on Jing than you do other hunters. And maybe he feels like he can get a stronger power spike early on, especially if knowing that DonutDoug is not going to be going for any lifesteal himself. He's Xbalanque, so almost certainly he's going to be going for Transcendence. Right. So that means that if he can get a huge power item like something like an Ichabal, that can force him out of lane very easily, set trades in his favor, and he knows that the lack of sustain won't be one-sided. It's for both of them.
Well, sounds like this start for Space should be okay, considering the situation. What might not be okay is the fact that Snaddy is off to such a good start. Jabami's on this side of the map too, but he's not looking for a gank. He wants to be here for the blue buff spawn. MaIachi on his way here, but if Snaddy rotates over, it should be a 2v1. The Sobek doesn't have much chance of winning. And this is why it's so hard, I think, to bring these Guardians over to solo lane. You can just get bullied like this, as War Machine does show up on the Vamana, but Jabami kind of by himself is winning the fight. We see that the Yemoja is on the way into the action here too. They dropped the Xbalanque ultimate, all in service of defending this blue buff. They ended up defending it, but Snaddy wants to drop it down. The knockup comes through, two are knocked up, but they can't lock down the kill. Instead, though, they might be able to get MaIachi, but he makes it back to the tier 1.
Decent, pretty good split up there by MaIachi and the rest of the team. It's a little bit awkward at times to go for something like that, and you can get focused out, but having charge prey up makes a huge difference in that spot, and make sure that you don't end up getting killed by, and making sure that everyone doesn't get hit by everything in that situation.
MaIachi is absolutely going to fall here. It's just a question of can he get anything in trade, and the answer is no. SweetPatato is the one that finds the kill. He let the ultimate loose over the wall too, but MaIachi was heads up enough to dodge that. But this is about as rough a start as you can ask for Revenge Tour. This Ratatoskr now 1-0-1. The Camazotz off to a good start too. This is pretty bad.
This is how you draw it up if you're Nunya. You get the Ratatoskr and the Camazotz, and to get the two lower pressure picks. Vamana is not exactly going to out clear you in the jungle. He really just wants to brawl in the 2v2, but because they fell so far behind early, losing the speed meant that was never really an option for him. And now you've got Rat Kama against two picks that are never going to be able to keep pace with you in terms of fighting. And you should just take every fight you possibly can on that blue buff. Ignore this left side of the map. Space should be very, very safe on the Jing way, especially with the extra movement speed that he ended up getting with that Atalantis.
You're exactly right, but there's going to be trouble. We'll have to wait a moment to talk about that as Vonsonn gets locked down. That's easy for YarBadKid, and they're not done yet. When it rains, it pours. Snaddy gets what I believe is the solo kill on MaIachi over in the solo lane. Yeah, things are not looking good.
No, suboptimal to say the least. And now you're looking at how do we even slow down Nunya right now. I think that you have to pay attention to Snaddy because it's going to be hard. It's hard to kill a Camazotz always. But I feel like even if you start killing JabamiChip right now, what does that really do for you in the long run? You just get to that that not very impressive Rat late game a little bit earlier. That's not a big deal that you shut him down. I think that you actually have to take someone out of the game who really matters when it comes to the late game and pushing these leads. Snaddy or SweetPatato is exactly where I'd be looking if I'm Revenge Tour. Maybe you just leave MaIachi out there on the island. He's already less than 7 minutes into the game. You kind of let Snaddy do whatever he's going to do in that lane, and let's try ganking mid or maybe even getting DonutDoug ahead on this left-hand side.
We saw MaIachi when he got back to lane barely defend his blue buff. That was nearly stolen from him. I wonder if a little bit of extra power from Shoes of the Magi helped him out. Is that what you normally see happening over here on the solo side? But we'll talk about that later as Jabami goes up again. MaIachi having a rough game, avoids the knockup though. Dash doesn't connect either, but JabamiChip gets the kill either way. It doesn't have to be particularly clean as they've already gotten the tier 1 in solo aggro. We're only 7 minutes in.
Yeah, well, we can start talking about my dog pretty soon because she can actually be on the cam with this setup. We can go with that.
It's okay. You let the other team get...
It's not a big deal. You let the other team get your tower at 7 minutes. Now you get no blue buffs and you're absolutely screwed. What can you do about it? You know, it's not a big deal.
It's not a big deal. Really nothing there that you can do. Looks like War Machine was able to come up and try and grab the red buff, but Space successfully was able to defend that one, ends up grabbing it too. So really nothing working for Revenge Tour right now. About a 3,000 gold lead here for Nunya at this point. 2,800 experience too. And like we said, we're only now 8 minutes here into the game. That's a pretty hefty lead for how early on we are. And a lot of this is coming from kills and jungle invades too. The right side of the map is basically forfeit for Revenge Tour.
Exactly. You have to just spend time in mid at this point. It's not even worth your time. You're not going to Snaddy at this point. You just don't have the damage and the CC chain to really do so. Looking at that build though for Space, he goes for the Atalantis bow and then no boots right afterwards. He's going to rely on the movement speed from that Atalantis only to try and get him around the map, which is an interesting choice. Atalantis is definitely an underrated item. I don't think we see nearly enough of this item. It's good attack speed. It's really strong power. And that mini hastened ability that you get, the ability to just get a little bit of extra movement speed is key. Plus, don't forget, whenever Jingwei uses that 3, she gets a little bit of movement speed. I believe it's 15%. So that kind of makes up for the lack of boots, even when you don't have that Atalanta stacked.
Keegs has to dash back. YarBadKid uses the blink to cut the distance. Snaddy gets the solo kill on the MaIachi over in right, and now in comes JabamiChip, flattens Vonsonn on the Yemoja. That makes it 2 for 0 in favor of Nunya. Now they're starting to win in every single lane, and I think they could even consider this gold Fury. They've got 4 members over. They're gonna look for the red buff invade, and Keegs, man, you really just can't afford to make your way into that one. The Ricochet, hopeless at this point, and now the gold Fury is gonna be started.
And who's gonna get in here and steal this? A branching bola from DonutDoug. That's the dream right now. If you're
Well, maybe he can use his ultimate to try and force them to fall back off, but it's not gonna be enough. Nunya secure the gold Fury quite nicely, and DonutDoug does what he can in that spot. I'm just glad he doesn't give anything more up in that spot, really, because there was not much chance of him stealing it. But this has been dominance from Nunya here so far. I think it's a good example of how important picks and bans are. As Snaddy's in trouble, gets pulled back by the charged prey, but he's still standing for now. Dodge is getting hit by the first hit of that Umbrella Ring, but not the second. Keegs does find the first kill for Revenge.
That's huge. That's the best one that you can get it onto. That first kill for you is Keegs. That's huge that he gets that shutdown gold, because Snaddy was worth roughly 1 million gold, give or take. So you end up setting up Keegs and catching him up very quickly. He's immediately able to back and buy that Transcendence. That's something at the very least. You're really hoping that now Keegs can turn around and find a solo kill on a SweetPatato or something like that. But the problem is that SweetPatato is not worried about that, because he's building into some defense.
He is
working towards that Breastplate of Valor, which is a very good item for Kukulkan in games like this, where it's going to be vastly physical damage. You're already getting power from it because you get power based on your mana from your passive and from Book of Thoughts, so you're double dipping on it. So even though this doesn't have any power explicitly on the item, you're going to get a decent amount via the hit.
You also like it when you're ahead too, as the Pyromancer is down pretty low. Snaddy forces one out. They use the Kukulkan ultimate for confirmation. Now War Machine has to dash right on out of there, but Snaddy comes over the wall, misses the one, takes right to the sky, has YarBadKid blinking in to try and help too, but this is good work from Vonsonn to make sure he makes his way out of there. He should be able to escape. Xbalanque ultimate used in space, continuing to run. DonutDoug couldn't quite find the solo kill.
Fast enough with that Atalanta's bow in order to get out. That was close. It looks like Space may have tried to go aggressive in that moment. His ultimate is down, so I wonder if he actually ended up dashing in with that ultimate to try and kill DonutDoug, but Xbalanque hits dummy hard at basically all parts of the game, even this early on.
My man War Machine thought about it and realized, yeah, okay, I do have to come back in and try and help out in this fight. Charge Prey lands on the Snaddy again. The Ricochet delayed. There's the actual stun onto this Camazotz, who does not have Bat Out of Hell. So this is a risky situation here for him. Keegs ends up jumping in. They lock him down with the River's Rebuke. And now this is a couple kills on the Snaddy in a row. And that's pretty important to help Revenge Tour get back into this.
Yeah, this is what we call the win condition, because you're just hoping, with the lead that Nunya had, you basically have to hope that they mess up and start giving you kills that you shouldn't be getting. Those are 2 kills that you really shouldn't be getting because Snaddy messes up a little bit at that time. Not the best decision making.
Let's go Space, looking for the solo kill here up against DonutDoug, and gets it quite easily. There was backup on the way in the form of this Vamana, but doesn't get there in time to save his hunter's life. All he can do is try and find revenge, but Space is managing to get away, uses the Aegis, gets some backup from the Kukulkan, and War Machine now is running for his life.
Yeah, but he's got enough sustain. He'll have his dash back up soon enough. I don't think there's any danger of War Machine dying, but SweetPatato's trying to play his out just enough mana in order to get that clear the path done.
Because now Keegs on the way drops down the Suns to cut off his escape path. SweetPatato does use the Aegis, but Vonsonn's on the way to this too. Escape looking less and less likely, but Keegs couldn't find those last few autos and is getting some help from YarBadKid, who interrupts Vonsonn on the Yemoja. The Ricochet hits, but Potato lives. Breastplate of Valor, thank you very much, and Vonsonn ends up falling.
Yeah, he needed every single point of protection from that Breastplate of Valor right there. If that Breastplate has, I don't know, 64 protections, I'm hoping it's 65, but I don't remember right now. Let's go, baby!
There we go!
If he had 64 prots right there, he's dead to rights, but just close enough. Also, a little bit of extra movement speed from those boots ends up helping out as well. Not the typical cooldown boots that you'd want to see. I don't know about this one. I think the cooldown boots are pretty much a necessity for him at that moment. You're getting, again, mana for the boots, which is, as I've already highlighted, very good on Kukulkan with this build, but maybe the extra movement speed helped him out there.
Jabami gets the tier 1 in mid, now considering chasing War Machine, but War Machine still at the dash. As long as that's up, Vamana so safe. Xbalanque ult uses another fight's happening over on the left-hand side between these two hunters, and DonutDoug is on the bad end of it this time, has to fall all the way back. But Snaddy still aggressive, looking for MaIachi. MaIachi flicks him back into the tower.
He him, baby.
He gets some revenge. There we go. Sobek sticking around in this one. Now JabamiChip in some trouble. Does make it up to the sky, but just barely, as Nunya bite off a bit more than they can chew. Aggro.
Okay.
It's still a 7K gold lead, but a revenge tour kind of back in it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, no, but yeah. If Snaddy keeps inting, then yeah, it's an option. But this is where you got to have the dude on your team to be like, hey, bro, maybe we mess around and win the game real quick so that we don't have to worry about it too much. And it's Snaddy's job to go, okay, you know, I was huge. I was up 3-4 levels. Now Sobek gets a shutdown kill, and he's kind of back at it.
Man, that's crazy. The good beads there, so he doesn't end up getting pulled back in. Either that or Vonsonn was a bit off the mark with that last pull he was looking for. Primal Fury ends up getting reset. Revenge Tour had a small window, but SweetPatato shuts that one down. Keegs beads and makes it over the wall. River's Rebuke does cut off the chase, but that should spell the end for Vonsonn, and it does. The Yemoja sacrifices their life to keep the hunter alive, and now the Primal Fury belongs solely to Nunya.
I mean, Vonsonn's found some pretty good ults so far this game, and you'd think that alongside a Hou-Yi ult, that's going to cover a distance. Difficult to ward off that team fight, but it's just been too far behind in this mid 3v3. I mean, Patato has that Breastplate of Valor done. That makes most of Keegs' damage pretty relevant. And everyone from Nunya is going to be able to just start stacking physical defense and be really, really tanky. I would have loved to see, instead of a Hide of the Urchin for JabamiChip, I would have loved a Void Shield. In that spot. It's just so much better, right? You don't need the magical protection very much at all. Really and he has no pen so far in the build, so Void Shield would have given him a little bit of pen, more, you know, actual power, and been a lot more relevant protection instead of this magic defense that he doesn't really need.
And I get it, right? In a lot of cases, if you're ahead in the jungle and you're gonna go like maybe like one tank item, Urchin, especially this early, is absolutely the pick. But I just think based on this game and the way that it was going, and the fact that it's so much physical, I'm right there with you on that Void Shield. As Snaddy continues to bully MaIachi, minute 16 looking the same as minute 2, by the way, as he continues to stand right in front of the tier 2. Meanwhile, the rest of the team securing Pyromancer as the Suns committed from the Hou-Yi. Snaddy forces a ton of resources over here and right, and there's the Pyromancer for the team.
Wonder if Keegs thought the ult was down in that spot. Otherwise, it's kind of weird.
Space could be in trouble. I say that, but no. My man buries War Machine underneath the tier 1 tower, and now Doug has to run for his life. It's level 17 Jing doesn't even have crit yet. Doesn't even have rage. It's just popping off at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Doug might be able to get a little bit good autos and hope Space misses, but come on, son. Space doesn't miss. That's an easy 2v1 for the kid. This build working out, man. I mean, you have Atalanta straight into Bloodforge. That is so much power in the build that is really, really hard to make it work. And speaking of making it work, maybe we move away from Vamana jungle next game, fellas. Just find something else.
Yeah, I would not complain about that one at all. I mean, maybe not third pick Sobek either. Not if this is how MaIachi is going to be playing it over in the short lane. I don't know, man. There were some problems in the drafting phase for Revenge Tour this time, for sure, undoubtedly, right? And Nunya, I think, have capitalized on that well here so far. But I think if you're Revenge Tour, you can also say Nunya has not played super clean. So maybe if we just didn't literally give them all the best gods, you know, we'd be in it.
I think that everyone besides Snaddy's decision making has done pretty well so far. It's real. I mean, there's the only 3 kills Revenge Tour have, 3 overextensions by Snaddy. Everyone else is deaths.
Well, that Fire Giant was never contested. Nunya grabbed that one pretty easily as War Machine tries his best to escape. Avoids the stun from JabamiChip. Jukes back in, though, and stays in range. Has the dash, but Snaddy lands the damage. Gonna catch up to him with the ultimate, but Blink is available, but Snaddy had one too. Catches up the War Machine and completes the kill. YarBadKid now a little bit too far forward. I don't know what you're gonna do against a tanky Xing Chen at this point. They cannot lock him down. Nunya get the Fire Giant and a pick.
Now they get the tier 2 tower on right because everyone was distracted by what Snaddy was doing. That everyone starts to rotate over towards this right-hand side because they can't defend the tier 2 in mid. That's going to be even more gold going Nunya's way. I mean, we're only 18 minutes in, Finch, and this is 13,000 going to be the lead here for Nunya. They have time to back and be ready for Fury as well. They don't have to lose anything at all during this push. Not even this tier 1 and left.
This has been a really, really impressive game here so far from Nunya. And like I said, I think in terms of experience, there's something to be said for what Nunya have competing as part of that SCL for a while. A lot of these players, so I'm not surprised they're playing well with this lead. A little bit of it from Snaddy has been a bit too much, but I think when you're really far ahead on your solo laner, you kind of do want them way far forward, kind of pushing the envelope, seeing what they can get away with. I think I am largely fine with this play.
Oh yeah, I mean, you definitely want someone like a Camazotz to be in their face and kind of doing things that you think other gods shouldn't be able to get away with. Once, maybe twice. Probably not a full 3 times, but hey, no harm, no foul, right? I mean, Snaddy's still level 18 and absolutely massive.
Yeah, at this point, it would take a lot for them to be able to complete this kill. MaIachi will get the tier 1 over in right, but he's got to bat quickly as Nunya now threatening the tier 2 in left, and could even potentially move in for a Phoenix. It looks like that is going to be the call. They've got a wave right here with them over in left. It's a full 5-man push, and Revenge Tour still aren't set, so right to the back goes YarBadKid, locks down Keegs and puts him at half HP, but a good ult from DonutDoug paired with the Rivers Rebuke from the Yemoja might have locked things down. There's no damage onto the Phoenix, but right into the back line goes JabamiChip looking for War Machine. Doesn't find much, but Vonsonn does end up getting flattened.
And that's just Kukulkan's safe follow-up from a distance. Now War Machine thinks that he can stand in front of everybody. Space says, I don't think so. That's 5 in a row for him.
DonutDoug is low, does manage to make it out of there. I spoke too soon as JabamiChip closes the distance and shuts down DonutDoug. Left side, Phoenix is falling, and Nunya, I think they're considering just looking for an end. It's only MaIachi and Keegs that are up to try and defend this one. A couple members are certainly low, but they've got plenty of damage aggro to try and find this end, but they gotta make sure they're focusing on the actual Titan. They have it now down to half HP. They must juggle the aggro. In comes the airstrike for more damage as YarBadKid is thrown back into the action, but Revenge Tour cannot stop this by themselves. It's Nunya that grabbed game 1.
In less than 21 minutes too. That is dominant. A dominant showing by them, but that's a great example of how you can lose games in the drafting phase pretty easily. That one was going to be an uphill battle from the very beginning, and ultimately Revenge Tour was just not quite able to overcome what draft they gave over to Nunya because it was very strong.
And I think the beginning of the draft is fine, right? You pick up that Yemoja. It's probably the most valuable pick at that point. To me, it's those back 2 picks right after that. Xbalanque makes some sense to me. He is strong right now. But that Sobek, man, I'm going to continue to question that as long as we talk about that game, because they gave up way too much value in return for it.
Way too much, especially when you have the option to get the Camazotz and then you give it over to them thinking, okay, maybe I can stalemate the lane against Camazotz. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. You're not picking Sobek in the top 3 so that he can go 0-3 in 6.5 minutes and lose his tower. That's definitely not the game plan. And not banning the Jing when you have the Sobek, and
they
when
Vamana jungle, right?
When Vamana jungle's on your radar on gods we might end up picking, why are we ever not banning Jing? It's impossible for Vamana to ever kill that god. And you're overloading 1 damage type. It means all of your damage dealers are physical, so SweetPatato can easily build that Breastplate of Valor and then never die to any of these players. I think that it was picks and bans weren't great, and then execution wasn't great either, and Nunya did a pretty good job. Maybe not perfect in the itemization, but Potato in particular I thought itemized very well. Spaceee's no boots build ended up being very, very potent. 5-0 for him in the game.
Yeah, imagine that. A Jing popping off 5-0-4 and never built a drop a crit, huh? I mean, obviously the Explosive Bolts has some of that there already, but I mean, this is a pretty good game for Nunya. You've got to be feeling good off it. I do think, though, if you're on Revenge Tour, you can kind of look to your boys and say, all right, we gave them too much in the draft phase, right? Like, we messed up the picks and bans. Maybe if we come in on a little bit more even footing and Snaddy stays as over-aggressive as he was, maybe we can win these games and start bringing this back. It's a best of 3. They're going to get some more shots at this.
Yeah, I think that I'd be saying there's no way we have a worse draft in game 2. So we got that going for us. Like, that is as bad of a beginning point as you can have. So that means it's only up from here. You know, there's some silver lining, at least in that.
Yes, it should be plenty of room for this team to improve. And like I said, I think we did see some good mechanics. DonutDoug was pretty close to a couple of solo kills there, but just was fighting into a deficit. I think that ended up hurting him in that matchup. MaIachi, though, did not particularly impress me. I don't know if I'm valuing that Sobek again, but I think there's some room for things to end up looking better for this team in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, Keegs had a couple really nice bounces, as you'd expect from him. And
Keegs played well too.
Well. overall, but you just can't have your side lanes do what they did there. And War Machine has got to secure speed this time around.
Yeah, that's right.
Pick something with a little bit more pressure. You don't have a whole lot of pressure on that team composition, especially when you're going to have a Ratatoskr on the other side. It's going to be difficult for your side lanes to really get the ball rolling at all. So I don't know. Maybe game 2 picks and bans will go better. I have to imagine that they will.
Yes, it would be very hard for them to go worse, right? Sort of as you said. At this point, they would essentially have to go the same or something else like that. So that's game number 1. As we've been saying, game number 2 is going to be on the way here very shortly. Let's give us a couple minutes, then we'll be able to come right back with that second game. Welcome back to the Smite Open Circuit. It's still Finch and Aggro, and we're still in the middle of the set between Revenge Tour and Nunya. Right now, Nunya up 1-0, and they're thinking, hey, if you guys want to give us Xing Chen, Jingwei, Camazotz again, then we'd really love that to happen here in this next game. But I got to imagine, Aggro, things are going to look a little bit better for Revenge Tour.
Again, it can't get worse than that draft. So let's start off on the right foot here. Maybe Revenge Tour, we're banning Camazotz. We're picking with a plan around it. You know, we're doing something in order to try it. We're picking a jungler that can actually kill their mid laner and not Vamana. Hey, what do you know? Camazotz first ban. That's what we like to see.
Yeah, we like that, getting taken away by Revenge Tour. It's a good call. I think it was somebody in chat who was saying that Morgan made the picks and bans last time too. So that's a bit surprising that she wasn't getting valued in that one too. There's a lot of really good gods, I think, right now that are viable in the game. So I don't know if everything's gonna get picked every game, but Morgan's really good.
I agree. Pick her. Yeah, pick her. She's really strong. A little bit of a bad match because he can dot you and then he can pick you up, and it's a little bit difficult to deal with at times. So maybe not the best game for her there, but I think Keegs has played a good amount of Morgan in his career, so that's something I'd like to see him go to for sure.
The Bakasura fear here is real. I think that's twice now Nunya had banned this one away. Meanwhile, Revenge Tour do ban away the Yemoja and the Kukulkan and the Camazotz away from Nunya, so they're going to have to go somewhere else. They will be first pick locking in that Xing Chen. I believe that was YarBadKid that was playing on that last game. Did look good on it, so we're going to need to see a little bit more of that same from him since they're trying to get first pick value out of it.
Yeah, I think he went 0-0 and 10 last game. That's
we like that.
Pretty solid out of your support for sure. But that leaves Odin open, and that's exactly where Revenge Tour is going to go. I think Odin Jingwei here makes a lot of sense to me. Keep that out of Space's hands, and is a pretty decent matchup up against the Xing Chen. Terra is also a pretty good matchup against Xing Chen because you can't get knocked up by the 2 when one of your monoliths is down, and you can't be picked up by the ult whenever your monolith is down. So I think that's actually a pretty strong pick if you don't want the Jingwei for some reason.
Yeah, instead they'll give that right over to Nunya. Nunya will happily take it. Space playing that Jingwei quite well last game, getting plenty of solo kills over there on it too. So I got no problem with giving them that one again. And they're going to pair with the Osiris, so even more pressure going to be happening over there in solo lane, perhaps than the Camazotz from last game. Hard to have more pressure, but certainly the Osiris will be looking to bully.
I think that's big, though, that Osiris is the exact same type of run it down god that Snaddy really did well with last time around. I think that's the right selection. You want to keep the pressure on, especially because you don't know, maybe they're willing to pick Sobek very early and put him in solo lane. Maybe they think that they can just put Terra in solo lane and have a better outcome. If I'm Revenge Tour, I'm definitely picking something that can actually fight a little bit better than a Guardian over in that lane. No one's beating up on Osiris necessarily, but give him something like Achilles that actually has some turn potential in that lane with a little bit of help from a gank.
Well, I believe last time in the same spot, Revenge Tour banned away the Unbots and the Daji. They're still going to ban away the Daji this time, but they're going to pair that with the Ratatoskr ban, which based on how it was played last time by Jabami, that makes a ton of sense to me, right? You don't want to let him have that one again. So I think I actually like these bans. Nunya clearly need a jungler, and then this should work for him.
Yeah, I think that this is pretty good. I mean, you take away a bunch of junglers on both sides, and now Revenge Tour gets first pick of the leftover junglers that can actually end up making a difference. So you're basically taking away 5 junglers at one time, or we just take the mid laner so that we can just completely ignore everything we were just talking about for sure.
Yeah.
It just means that you're not too worried about what the jungler is going to be picking, but especially if you're going to pick something like Hell, you would love to have the opportunity to make sure that Nunya don't get a chance to pick something good against that Hell, right? Oh, I see. Yeah.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it.
It wouldn't be open circuit or challenger circuit day without a Scylla selection.
Of course, dude. Well, I mean, and obviously it's going to do really well, right? Because we're going to talk about how much you don't like Scylla. So I guess you can go ahead and just pack it in. And there's the Unbots I was talking about too. And this is kind of my point. If Revenge Tour were worried about this with this Unbots, I don't think there's any reason why you couldn't take that fourth and then just still scoop up hell in that last slot. Maybe it's Odin jungle and they already want to do that, but no, now they're getting the Bastet. So still certainly a very strong jungle pick.
Yeah, I understand Revenge Tour wanting to keep their jungle, whether or not that Odin was jungle or support or solo, kind of until last pick. It's just a little bit risky to go with the hell. I don't think Nunya did a great job of punishing that earlier hell pick, so it's not, it all works out in the end, right? No harm, no foul. But it's going to be up to see how this Bastet is going to do for War Machine, because this is a pick that can either snowball the game very, very easily or become pretty useless pretty early on.
Well, it's 2 hogs picked up, one for War Machine, one for Vonsonn as well. So keep an eye on where the jungler and support choose to use those to confirm some buffs. Snaddy takes a little bit of early poke as he gets spotted out in the jungle, gets caught by MaIachi on the loop around, and this might now be trouble for the Osiris. A lot of abilities have been used. He's made his way out of there. Snaddy ends up.
That's tough to miss the Terra stun off of the Odin stun. You gotta be hitting that one, because that should have been a kill on the Snaddy, or at least poking him to where he has to back and use TP early on, where it's much more harmful to have that happen to you whenever you're up against a real warrior and not a Sobek. Yeah, that's a tough one there, Finch.
No, it's an unfortunate drop, really, as Vonsonn comes over to try and defend, uses the hog, but I think it was too early, and YarBadKid ends up getting it. That's twice now that we've seen a too early hog usage. That one's a bit harder, I would say, but well, they're both kind of tough. But still, I mean, if you're going to pick up the hog, you really want to be able to confirm the buff you're going for.
Yeah, you basically just spend 100 gold to get a mini off of buff camp, but that doesn't seem super worth it to me. We got to be hitting the jungle practice here, fellas. Now, it tells you exactly how much damage that hog is going to do. It's 150 true damage. It's a little bit harder whenever you are an assassin and you're using that Assassin's Blessing math. It's okay, 150, 35% additional on that because of Assassin's Blessing. I'm not going to do that math because I can't. So I don't know. I understand that one a little bit more at times, but you know exactly how much that's doing whenever you're the Guardian. That's pretty rough.
Yeah, it certainly is. I think last time it was War Machine who had the hog and still got his buff invaded by Snaddy. So we're not seeing a whole lot of value out of it as DonutDoug does get locked down, but manages to escape. His purification beads, I think, might have already been on cooldown before that, so he managed to just barely get out of there. But I like the aggression if he is going to be vulnerable.
Yeah, maybe YarBadKid can blink and wait for a second to see if he can get DonutDoug to panic dash, and then you can interrupt the first frames of it so he doesn't get too far away from you. But just blink rooting unless space is right there with a knock-up after the fact, which it looks like it was maybe on cooldown or something, you're not going to get too much out of that. A little bit of pressure for space, but that's not really what Jing really relies on anyways. It shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Right, it's not as if you pick Jing to dominate in the early game, right? He's someone who comes online a bit later. It looks like Space is going to be going that same Atalanta's build start, though, with this build path. And I think now if you're Revenge Tour, you've got an idea about what you can expect from. I think it was the Blood Forge right after that, and not that much crit was in that build either. So maybe with that information, you kind of understand like what's going to be happening from Space defense.
And now you have a god in Bastet that has a much better chance of actually punishing you for not having a whole lot of movement speed at the very beginning, as YarBadKid again gets in there.
Once against Hog, once in the 1v2, not bad.
Back to back against Purple. Especially against Terra, man. I mean, Terra has such good buff confirm with that too. It does solid damage. It stuns the enemy so that they can't be using anything at that time. So it gives you a huge window. Let's say that stun does 300 damage. You basically buy yourself a lot of time.
Snaddy willingly taking the 1v2 and ends up paying for it. War Machine finds first blood as JabamiChip doesn't quite get there in time to turn the tide. And Snaddy had a long time, man, to say no to that fight. He said yes a bunch of times and ended up dying.
Tough. I mean, Jabami's on his way, but I think underestimating how much damage everyone was going to do, and Jabami actually needs to be careful with this big rotation, including Keegs all the way over here, but seems like he's going to be out of there.
Well, remember, this is how the game went for Nunya last time, right? It was a ton of pressure on solo lane. We saw Jabami rotating over there a lot, and Snaddy obviously was able to bully the Sobek Guardian out of the lane pretty easily. But this time, I don't know if that's going to be the same case. MaIachi and War Machine on this Odin and Bastet, I feel like they can fight a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a team comp that has a lot more slows on that side of the map. Snaddy doesn't have the get out of jail free card that he has with Camazotz. Osiris, once he's committed, is committed. It's a lot harder for him to just decide he's done with the team fight and walk out on that side. And you've got Keegs to rotate over, who's got better clear this time on the Hell than he did on the Ho Yi. You've got CC from MaIachi this time around. I mean, that is actually not as committal as a Sobek. I like this idea a lot better, putting MaIachi on a warrior and giving him an actual fighting chance in this lane.
Yeah, it should set them up to a much better start. Revenge tour, perhaps on their own actual revenge tour here after what happened to them in game number 1. Certainly with a much better start here in game number 2. YarBadKid continues to get aggressive. Good cleanse means that no one ends up getting picked up by that ultimate. So now War Machine can get aggressive. Doesn't find much really onto either target, and that Bastet ultimate largely wasted.
Gets the Aegis out from SweetPatato, and that's a big deal. It to an easy kill later on. If he didn't have Aegis at that point, then he's probably dead. So you're kind of setting yourself up for the kill later on down the line. You've got to do that at some point. I've got no problem with that play by War Machine at all.
Got to come back and collect later on.
Yes, that's the key, right? You have to actually make good on that work that you just put in.
This is trouble, though, for Keegs. He's been caught out here in the jungle. JabamiChip nearby as well, but not even needed, as SweetPatato puts him into the dirt using that Scylla crush. And I don't know, man, we've been talking a lot about how we don't love seeing Scylla. There's a lot of stuff she does that other mages also do and more, but I feel like she's done relatively well.
Yeah, she's done okay. I think that in moments like that, any mid laner kills Keegs for that pathing. That's just poor pathing by Keegs. That's the second time in 2 games that he's been killed at that exact same pathing. So that's something that just needs to be cleaned up. But Scylla with a lead that can get into the late game can be potent, and there's certainly enough setup for her with this composition. You've got Xing Chen and Batz, 2 of the best setup gods that you can have in that mid 3v3. So there's certainly good potential there for Scylla, but being safe against the Bastet is going to be a little bit harder. The big key this game for SweetPatato, how accurate is he going to be with those Sycoms? That is huge for him, because that root cripple will ruin Bastet's opportunities in these team fights.
Well, just as we saw last time, it's the Transcendent start for DonutDoug on the Xbalanque and the Atalantis bow for Space. But looks like this time he is going to be building into some... Oh, well, no, he builds with the Bloodforge exactly in that spot there last time. So it's pretty much the same start here for these 2 guys. And last time it really worked for Space. There's more action happening in mid. Vonsonn in some trouble, but able to make it out of there. I'm a Monster already procced from SweetPatato, and he hasn't even going to get a chance to use it. He ends up falling right away thanks to the burst damage there from Keeg. See you later to the Scylla and Revenge Tour. Find 1 more kill.
And that's clutch right there by that Bastet rotation to make sure that you get exactly what you asked for, which is that punishment. Is Snaddy gives some punishment over to MaIachi. Maybe it wasn't all the Sobek in that lane, but that fight goes really well because Keegs saves Vonsonn from a big CC chain that was coming his way. He was in the middle of the Fear No Evil. He got cleansed by that Hell, which was huge. That meant that all this commit that was planned by Nunya, we're just going to insta-kill the Terra, and then we can get out of danger, didn't end up coming to fruition. It means that SweetPatato kind of hesitates a little bit more.
Well, this is what we call unacceptable around here. I'm already losing lane. Please don't come over here and drop another one. As Snaddy now level 9, 2-1-0 on this Osiris. And it looks like as long as you give my man some pressure over here in the solo lane, he is ready to make the absolute most of it.
Yeah, Snaddy was one of the players that we had a lot of players kind of step up and surprise people and kind of make a name for them in that Smite Challenger Circuit qualifier. And I think that it's safe to say that Snaddy was one of those. I think that he played really, really well during those qualifiers and was a big part of his team's success. Now, obviously, that team doesn't make it in the Smite Challenger Circuit, but it doesn't surprise me to see him being on pop-off alert here again today, because this is exactly what you don't want the Osiris to do, is get ahead early and really start to bully out your Odin. And Snaddy is going to be a nightmare in these team fights. This Hell might have some serious trouble whenever Snaddy starts to rotate.
Nunya considered a red buff invade, but Revenge Tour showed up in time to successfully defend. I believe you could see it up there around Keeg. So they got that red buff, and then SweetPatato grabbed his own. But I love this aggression we've seen from YarBadKid really all game. You kind of talked about it. It hasn't always been maybe cleanly executed to where they're going to get a whole lot of it out of it. You know, you talked about the Xbalanque and potentially trying to bake that dash out. But I think for the most part, his aggression has been strong here for them so far on this Xing Chen.
Oh, absolutely. I would much rather have a support that is trying to make plays and maybe the execution isn't always there. As long as they're not hard inting, it's a huge deal to have an aggressive support. It's always better to be asking the questions than having to answer them consecutively. And we've seen that prove true over a long period of time.
Yeah, my man MaIachi might need a cheat sheet, man. It has just not been working for him here in solo. YarBadKid does end up having to use the ultimate. I think that's about as much as you can get, is forcing out that ultimate there, but another death from MaIachi as the Gold Fury gets started up. Fear no evil though from JabamiChip will slow that down. Keegs is low, but has enough time to get a heal off. War Machine finds a kill of his own. They take down SweetPatato. That makes it 1-for-1. And Revenge Tour have a good amount of numbers here on the left-hand side, so Jabami is in some trouble too. They might have turned this one around.
This is huge, and I don't think Space is going to be able to get in here and make too much noise. This Hell Sustain is proving to be problematic so far for Nunya.
Space comes in, tries with the persistent gust. YarBadKid tries too, but Revenge Tour able to confirm the objective, and what a better game for them here in game number 2. I don't want to get too far away from it. They are still behind in terms of gold at this point. Nunya still with that lead, but when you just consider how out of control things already were by this point last game, the Revenge Tour are looking a bit better.
Huge. That's massive. I mean, Snaddy is again 3 levels up and tower down 10 minutes, but in the mid lane, things are going so much better, and this time DonutDoug is staying a little bit more safe. Really, the big thing for me is that War Machine is a relevant factor in this game. He's top of his team in net worth right now. He's 2-0-2, been a part of every single kill for Revenge Tour, and he's setting MySweetPatato behind, whereas that was never an option in game number 1 on the Vamana for War Machine. So having an active jungler on the map usually ends up making a pretty big difference, and that seems to be the difference so far for Revenge Tour.
And it's so tough because, you know, you'd think the Vamana and maybe you could stick to that Kukulkan, and you kind of liked it the way that it looked on paper at least, but it really never got going. He had the speed boost stolen at the beginning of the game, and really nothing was working for them as DonutDoug might be in some trouble. Space again, looking for the solo, dashes in, airstrike confirms it, and DonutDoug gets soloed, my friend, but War Machine on his way to trying to right some past wrongs does end up missing the root, but you can't miss Pounce. It's the size of the lane, and does make it 1-for-1.
That's huge for War Machine to get a shutdown kill on Space, because that had the potential to. But basically, as soon as that Atalanta's bow gets 3 autos, you gotta give it up.
MaIachi does find the kill on the SweetPatato. Pyromancer ends up going down too, trying to add to the trade, so really it ends up being a 2-for-1 in favor of Revenge Tour, but Keegs ends up falling too, so make it 2-for-2 now across the board as several members end up falling. Vonsonn in some trouble now too. The Terra getting locked down, and Snaddy, now that he's getting involved in more fights, is proving to be a real big problem. Yet another kill going the way of Nunya as they claw their way right back into it.
MaIachi is probably dead at this point. I mean, maybe if he lands this stuff, it's out of range of that tether, but looks like he's only 1-for-2 on that problem. Should have jump up actually to get up and over this wall without Snaddy's ultimate. I don't think. Okay, maybe we don't jump over that wall and we just spin around in circles for a little bit instead. This is where you just have to tell Snaddy you should be at every fight from now on. He just has to be in the mid lane, getting involved in every single meta, or every single fight, because right now the meta is let these solo laners kind of sit there and do whatever they're going to do for a little bit, and then they'll join whenever it's time. Time is now, man. You're 5-1. You've got 3 full items. This is where you want to be playing.
It's pretty impressive, really, what Snaddy's been able to do throughout this set, hasn't it? I mean, really, the side lanes have really done well. I mean, and in game 1, I want to make sure we're being fair to MaIachi. There was a good amount of rotations with JabamiChip over there, but he was kind of losing the lane outright anyway, and Space had a really good thing going here up against DonutDoug. These side lanes have been a big boon so far for Nunya.
Huge. That's really been impressive so far for them. It really, Snaddy in particular, but Space had a great game last time around. He's already soloed DonutDoug once, and I'd expect him to continue to do the same. Space is a really strong ADC player, and I'm excited to see him on a pretty strong team here in the open circuit, because I think that he could definitely start working his way towards that next step of that Smite Challenger circuit. I think that Space has definitely put the time in and been a pretty consistent ranked player, and usually does very, very well. So this new build, whether it was him or I think I saw Barra playing with this build a little bit at one point. It's working for him one way or the other.
Hey man, and that's high praise. If you were messing up Aggro's ranked games, he'd let you know. So
No. That's where you're wrong, Finch. You see, I'm baby Elo these days. Okay, I do not get into the big games.
Oh, I gotcha.
I've been pushed out. We're very sad about it, but he's dominating the high level rank games. You know, I'm in baby gear. At least all things in the Masters tier at the very least.
Oh yeah. On the scale, I suppose.
Right.
Space, considering perhaps another solo kill, DonutDoug has to use the ultimate. Space gonna try and close the distance, but DonutDoug might be far enough away. But it's just so fast from Space. The build limits the options for Doug. He has to use the Aegis in order to escape and run to the team. But this Jing Wei is a dominant force here in left.
Man, he is so fast. Extra movement speed from agility and from the Atalanta's bow. That is tough to deal with.
It really has been so far as War Machine gets bullied out as well. Snaddy continues to be the other side of that two-headed dragon here on the solo side of the map. MaIachi continues to try trading with him, but it just feels like such a futile effort. I mean, this Osiris, you're not bringing him down.
No, not unless you have Keegs rotate over, maybe another person in addition to that. Snaddy looks like he's half HP right now, and he is, but effectively, he may as well be full. There's no point in MaIachi trying to get this solo going.
Oh, I like this though. Nunya have 4 members at the Primal Fury, and I don't think Revenge Tour have any idea that is the Fury selected. But now Revenge Tour should know there's a huge presence on left, so they're going to commit to Snaddy here and right. They cannot find the Terra wall stun though. Snaddy gets a 2-man stun and tries to continue the fight. No Lord of the Afterlife for the escape. He's got to rely on sustain and healing to try and make it out of it. Snaddy buying tons of time, and now JabamiChip, MySweetPatato, all on the way. They finally get the kill, but Fear No Evil finds 2. They get a little bit of help from the cleanse from Keegs, but now YarBadKid can pick them up and throw them freely. Doesn't really get anyone, and SweetPatato can't find anything with the ult.
Oh, big on the monster though from SweetPatato. That's one, but not going to be able to kill War Machine. War Machine actually trades. And now with the Bastet looking pretty healthy.
It's a 2 for 3. I don't know how, but Revenge Tour have somehow turned this one into not a bad fight for them at all. YarBadKid now in some trouble, as well as War Machine gets another 4 for 2. And that started with Snaddy, I don't know, bathing over there in Soul Lane, and Revenge Tour turned that fight around.
Very, very well. It just took too long to kill Snaddy. It took too many tower shots, but at the end of the day, it ends up being okay on Revenge Tour's side because they get a big rotation in War Machine. MaIachi does pretty good damage in that moment. Great tower aggro management by Vonsonn in that moment as well. He took as many tower shots as he could, as DonutDoug is 1 auto from death, but might be able to turn it around.
What?
Gotta hit that one, Space. Gotta hit that auto, Space. I mean, it took 2 autos to kill him, and you basically get an auto free on landing right there. Melee range, barrel stuff it. That's not. Look, build aside, that has nothing to do with the build. You just gotta hit that auto.
Yeah, and that's so disappointing because Space had a great set up until now, right? And what's really impressive to me, DonutDoug's kind of been getting bodied. He's having a much better game here this game, right? Obviously.
Yes.
But game 1, and even I would say the beginning of this game have not been great for him, but it has not deterred my man at all. Still going in, taking these fights, and I think just now we saw exactly why, able to finally get a bit of the outplay there into Space and find himself a solo kill. And he's right back into that with this Xbalanque build. He's got the Transcendence, the Ninja Tabi into the Aussie. Looks like Executioner might be coming next. I think that we might be seeing DonutDoug have a better game here.
I agree. I mean, he's much more even this time around, which is huge because Xbalanque is best whenever you're in a pretty close team fight, an even team fight, and then you just end up turning out the lights and causing so much havoc that he's able to really do a whole lot of work in these team fights. And now, I mean, after getting that solo kill that he totally earned all himself, he's feeling it a little bit.
Drops the ultimate and starts getting aggressive with the tier 1. Meanwhile, the rest of Nunya looking for the Pyromancer. MaIachi, the only one nearby, so the objective will be secured. But DonutDoug at least answers back with the tier 1. Space was a little bit too low to step up and defend, so then I'm trading the objective for the tower.
This is not looking so great all of a sudden for Nunya. I know they've got the for now, but maybe it's not so bad.
Space can't find the last few autos, and now suddenly War Machine is here. He'll wait out the airstrike landing. Good patience from Space, but still has to take inferior pathing and could be into some trouble. JabamiChip finds a good kill into Keegs, but the root from range lands from War Machine. Waits out the purification beads. A nice easy cleanup kill. Now 7 in a row for him as Snaddy looks for a fight in the jungle, but Vonsonn running for his life. Can't find the wall stun. Finally gets 2 and might be able to make it out.
Snaddy's still looking for him. He'll chop him down eventually. Bommy's a little bit too overextended. Raven Shield gets the job done.
And now Snaddy is indeed in some trouble. YarBadKid's coming in to help out. Wants to try and pick up 2, but MaIachi jumps up over the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. The root absolutely does land, but Snaddy still has a chance to turn this on the War Machine. They end up trading as in comes MySweetPatato to make it a 1-for-1.
But he can't really face tank Xbalanque auto, so it ends up being a 2 at the end of the day across the map. Again, in favor of Revenge Tour. These fights are starting to go their way a little bit, and Snaddy is going to be less relevant as this game goes on. Eventually, you'll have enough damage out of Keegs or War Machine to be able to kill this Osiris. Now, the fact that War Machine actually takes his first death is pretty important there for Nunya, because he was off to a really, really strong start. 8-0 so far in this game, highest level in the game. And Jabami has just been ineffective so far in this stats, but a lot of it is because of how well Keegs has played on this hell. I know that he's bottom of the net worth charts. That's not where you want your hell to be. He's 1-4. That's not where you want your hell to be. But he's had a lot of really, really good cleanses, and that's a critical, especially against such a CC heavy composition as Nunya. When you think Fear No Evil on the tank into the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel on the tank, that's very difficult for Vonsonn to usually deal with. Keegs done a great job of keeping his support up and alive. He just needs to get some items online now, and he'll really be swinging.
You're absolutely right. Revenge Tour right back into this game. They're down about 3,000 gold or so, but 20 minutes in, spread out across 5 players. It's really not that big of a deal. You can absolutely fight into that. But you got to be here for Furies like this. The Gold Fury down to half HP, but Nunya is starting to leash it. I don't think they feel so comfortable trying to out DPS it here so far. Revenge Tour show up. They give up on the objective. Jabami has dropped the Fear No Evil as well. Revenge Tour, I think, coming out of that one looking a little bit better.
Not a bad idea by Nunya to try to sneak it, because Snaddy isn't there. So as soon as Revenge Tour know they're right idea to drop it, losing Fear No Evil is really rough.
Fear has been brought down quite low. YarBadKid picks up DonutDoug and throws him back, but really not a ton of follow-up from that as MaIachi tries to establish a front line, but Snaddy can't handle it in the back line. He ends up melting as Keegs gets the very first kill of that engagement. And without Snaddy, that's a lot of the front line presence down for Nunya. Revenge Tour start up the Gold Fury and have it at half HP. Space wants to try and force his way in, wants to look for a contest, but Revenge Tour gets the objective. He has to get up into the airstrike. War Machine brings him low, but Revenge Tour are going to keep looking for what fight they can. Space is too low. He's stuck inside the cage, but they lock down MaIachi. He gets the kill first, though, but gets traded out.
War Machine's got to get out of this tower. Still has a secondary part of Pounce, so he's A-okay, or it's actually the initial cast. YarBadKid drops a very late cursed Onk. They just don't have the damage to really make it matter.
This is risky, though, from Nunya. Their HP bars are so low, and they're still sticking around, trying to defend this tier 2 tower. Jabami jumps, but kind of stays in place. MySweetPatato goes over the wall, has to use Aegis, but is still in range for War Machine to hit from downtown. DonutDoug, the next one in trouble, does end up falling. The JabamiChip's a good Fear No Evil to buy some time, but War Machine gets a double. Keegs gets 1 too. That's a deicide. Revenge Tour get the Fury, and they win the fight.
Just these long engagements make this healing so much stronger for Revenge Tour. And there's a lot of anti-heal on the other. There's Beat Stick for JabamiChip, Divine Ruin there for MySweetPatato. You've got the Cursed Onk that is upgraded for YarBadKid, but it's just not enough when these engagements last so long. Way too late on the Onk by YarBadKid. You have to wait until the enemy team's trying to commit to you. You want to use it in conjunction with Terra ult on the other side to shut down a lot of that and guaranteed in-combat healing. And it just doesn't come out at the right time. It seems like Nunya is having a tough time with this Bastet as well. And I feel like they're just not playing around it particularly well, to be honest with you, Finch. I mean, they're not really respecting the ability to get in these team fights and deal this much damage. Bastet's a pick that is strong, but I really don't think that she's not at the top of the picks and bans chart in competitive for a reason. She's a god that only brings one thing, and that's damage. And you can play around those characters pretty easily as long as they don't have a ton of sustain or get out of jail free cards, aka what makes Camazotz so good. Bastet is kind of like Camazotz, but worse in my mind, because she does vastly the same thing. It's just dive damage. It's just more damage, but less survivability, and that's usually harder to deal with. But it seems like War Machine's making it work, and Nunya's having a tough time with it.
Nunya trying to start another engagement on the Pyromancer, but they have to leech it. MaIachi is able to cage in everybody on the side of Nunya, and they end up taking damage when they escape. So War Machine just ends up looking for Potato over on the side, and the ultimate just makes him a sitting duck because he can't escape. War Machine cuts down the Scylla to start the fight. Now Snaddy in some trouble. The pounce does a ton, and War Machine gets a double kill on this Bastet revenge tour. They're not just back in it, they're in the driver's seat now.
This is really one person's revenge tour. War Machine goes from completely invisible on the Vamana in game number 1 to hard carrying revenge tour here in game 2.
The Fire Giant at half HP, and it looks like Revenge Tour want to leash it. They want to take the fight, but DonutDoug has stayed on, so is Vonsonn. It's not a complete leash. They just wanted to try and force 2 out. In comes YarBadKid. He's trying to halt the DPS more than actually steal it, and Nunya strip the Fire Giant away. Revenge Tour can't do enough to secure the objective, and MaIachi could end up forfeiting his life for the trade, but Keegs makes JabamiChip pay for it. MaIachi turns around and lands the stun into space that forces the beads. They may have lost the objective, but they're going to keep taking this fight.
I mean, they still have that sustain, Finch. Look at how healthy everybody is. It's been going on for a time and is going to be on the bad end of it pretty soon.
And YarBadKid's in a whole heap of trouble. War Machine gets the kill credit for that one, and suddenly Revenge Tour, even without the FG, are in control to start threatening the Tier 2 tower. In comes the TP from Snaddy, immediately drops that curse donk. The Tier 2 tower, though, does end up falling. War Machine avoids the Lord of the Afterlife and is able to make his way away from the Osiris. SweetPatato gets nothing out of the ult from the Scylla either, and Revenge Tour can now regroup and look to take the fight. They turn around and drop the cage.
Chasing against sustained comps, the #1 rule. War Machine able to basically insta-kill both backliners with 1 pounce. Double kill for him. It's another deicide again. And Nunya have got to learn how to play against a sustained comp. Again, Keegs is a ton of credit because he has so many good cleanses, even all the way back towards that Fire Giant fight. He cleansed MaIachi out of a big Xing channel that would have changed the course of that fight. But man, it's just chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And this is risky because Keegs has no mana.
He does not have much mana. JabamiChip has the Fear No Evil. It does get some decent value, and right now the Titan is not all that low. They throw MaIachi back into the actual fountain, but he's able to live through it. And look, they're not putting much DPS on the actual Titan itself here at all, but they're still plenty healthy and able to stick around. The Titan now below half HP, and they're going to try and commit to grab this in. JabamiChip comes right back in. His health bars start to get lower, but it's not enough. Revenge Tour before the 26-minute takes over, claim game number 2.
Man, that game was really well set up for Nunya for a long period of time. Snaddy was, again, in the driver's seat, but he never really rotated over to that mid and left-hand side. Even the 1 Gold Fury that Nunya wanted to start, Snaddy's off clearing the right-hand side. I think that as soon as he gets those couple kills, he's what, 5-1, a bunch of levels up.
Yeah.
Rotate. He's got to get in that mid lane because you have to take fights before that hell gets enough items where things like that can happen. Look at that healing. 25,000 in total for Revenge Tour.
My goodness.
And the player damage just isn't going to be nearly enough from Nunya to be able to get there. I think Keegs played really, really well. I just do not like the way that Nunya decided to take those fights. Constantly chasing engagements. It's just not what you can do against sustained comps. It's exactly what they want you to do.
It felt almost like they still thought they were in game number 1, right? Like at times it was a lack of respect. That tier 2 tower defense in the long lane, I keep thinking about that. They were half HP on everyone, and they stuck around trying to defend there. I think you might have to cut your losses a little bit sooner in those situations, back, get healthy, and then just be in shape to defend Phoenixes. Instead, they allowed for Revenge Tour to get a big sweeping play all at once instead of forcing them to accrue it incrementally. And I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot that way.
I agree. I mean, honestly, the worst thing that could have happened to Nunya there is a steal fire because it makes them feel like they're in a pretty decent engagement. But you look at player damage. I mean, Scylla down at 7,500. I didn't like the soul gem at all for SweetPatato. That is just not the item that you really want on Scylla the majority of the time. She had a breastplate of valor again. It's basically a full cooldown Scylla build. Cooldown is not what you want on Scylla. You want to be insta killing people off your first rotation, especially against healing, because you need to make sure that they're dead right off your first rotation. You're not going to get a chance to kill them in 2 rotations. It's going to take 3, and then that's just not going to be enough. What do you know? We hate a Scylla pick. It happens basically every time. But I think that Nunya, the way that they played that game just shows me that they still have a little bit of ways to go on understanding the macro of what they should be doing against certain compositions. And what they really should do, in my mind, in game 3, get Snaddy something where he's going to get huge, pick a pressure jungler, get Snaddy ahead because he's been bullying MaIachi all day, and then take it to mid and left. That's the game plan. Space has played well. We know the missed auto, whatever.
Yeah.
Space has played well. It's really about making sure that your mid lane is safe and sound, and you've got to do that through your right-hand side.
I think so too, man. Or maybe something along the lines of trying not to let War Machine have a great game. They took him entirely out of the picture in game 1 on that Vamana. It's tough though. They banned a lot of assassins. He came all the way down to the Bastet and still played that really well. I don't know if it's picks and bans. It might have to be kind of, as you're saying, controlling that right side of the map and not allowing him to take that big control like we saw from before. But that's just game number 2, aggro. This game number 3, gonna be the decider match. I don't know how you could ask for anything more from your finals here in the SOC than going all the way the distance to game number 3. It'll be a quick break though while we get that ready. We'll be right back for the last game. And welcome back to the Smite Open Circuit, the NA Finals between Nunya and Revenge Tour. It's game 3, and it's Finch and Aggro here bringing you the call. And so far, Aggro, we've seen 2 very different games, right? Game 1, it was a dominant game from Nunya that felt like it was won in picks and bans. And then game 2 was a bit more back and forth. So I don't know. It's hard to know how game 3 is going to go.
I think that picks and bans are going to be pretty important, but I agree with you that last entirely bans like game 1 was. It was the way that it was played around those picks actually in game in the execution. So hopefully Revenge Tour can keep it up with a good picks and bans phase. They're in that first pick slot again, and I do think that first pick has had a bit of a disadvantage so far in this set. So we'll see if they can turn that around here in game 3.
Well, the Camazotz getting banned again. I think Snaddy still causing a bit of nightmares for Revenge Tour. They don't want to have to deal with that one. And I think that makes sense. You don't want Snaddy on anything with pressure. You can't entirely take pressure away from the guy. There's too many guys, I think, that have pressure in solo to get rid of all of them. But try and mitigate that to some extent and be ready to play around it.
I agree. I think that that's huge. Just get something that you know can survive that laning phase. I don't know that if Snaddy's going to get as much help as he's been getting from JabamiChip, that it's going to be tough. But maybe something like a Thor in the jungle or a Ratatoskr for Revenge Tour would mean that those semi-global rotations can end up helping you a little bit more quickly than having to walk all the way over there.
It also might be time to take Space off of that Jing Wei if you're Nunya, right? I mean,
Agreed.
I don't know if you can come gank him over there because she's so safe, and he's been playing so well so far in that lane. I mean, obviously the one solo kill aside after the ult where he misses the auto attack, but other than that, he's been a real terror over there in that long lane too. I wouldn't be surprised if that matchup ends up being really important as the Kukulkan selected first overall.
I like this for Revenge Tour. SweetPatato looked way, way better on the Kukulkan than he did on that Scylla. Take that out of his hands. Yeah, well, what a crazy thought. A good Scylla. It's really, really tough to match that output that a Kukulkan's going to provide. I think that this is a good pick for Keegs and Revenge Tour.
Well, Xing Chen and Xbalanque will be the picks here from Nunya. And this has been the Hunter pick for over there in that Hunter role all set long for them. So, or not for Nunya, it was a Revenge Tour that's been playing the Xbalanque. It's a swap up now for that Jing Wei instead. So a bit surprising actually that we're seeing it. So I don't know, maybe they just want to take the Xbalanque away from them, or they're worried the Jing Wei wouldn't work here as well. I think it's been working all well for them all set.
I agree. I do think that Xbalanque Ultimate made it a lot harder for Snaddy to get help in these team fights, which is pretty important. And Space has been playing well enough that I kind of trust him to take anything into his hands. I think the bigger thing is keeping the Xing Chen away from Revenge Tour. I think that's a pretty key part, but I don't know. I feel like Xing Chen is just the pick that you want basically at all times. And I understand that the Terra pick is there again as a better matchup, so that you're not getting picked up by that ultimate when you drop that 3. But I think that we got to see a little bit more from the Terra in the stuns. I saw a lot of good ultimates, but the stuns needed some work last game.
Agreed, as Nunya choose to ban away the Bastet for War Machine and the Jing Wei. I think these bans are a lot better here from Nunya this time. And clearly something's going on with this Bakasura too that I might not personally know about, but clearly they've got the intel on. So I think that this has been a much better ban phase from them here so far to take the Bastet and the Jing Wei away. And they're going to put Jabami back on this Ratatoskr that he looked good on in game 1.
Yeah, I like that. And Vamana pickup for Snaddy is one that is certainly can do the job over there. It's a pick that is good against the Odin. You don't have to worry about that cage at all. So that's really strong for you. and you can kind of just run on top of this Kukulkan as long as you get enough farm. That was the idea for War Machine last time around. Obviously, that didn't work out in game number 1 of this set, but I think it's a better pick for Snaddy in this moment. But this is a pick that doesn't have a whole lot of sustain, and that's something that Snaddy's really relied on through the first 2 picks. Camazotz with the kit, and then Osiris with Glad Shield. Those are 2 picks you can kind of get yourself in low situations and still make plays. Vamana without that ultimate, it's going to be a lot harder to do that.
Though this Kali I think has been getting banned all set if I'm remembering correctly. So that has now managed to sneak its way through here for Revenge Tour to give them sort of a late game insurance policy. They're also going to take the Ho Yi. This is another pick they've really liked. So no Jing here in this game. We're going to be seeing the Ho Yi versus the Xbalanque matchup this time as Janus comes through for Nunya to round out their draft. I'm very surprised. I'd have thought they'd wanted a bit more consistent magic damage than this, but this gives them a ton of dive potential.
Exactly, and this is kind of what I expected out of something like Revenge Tour, trying to run a Snaddy for a lot of his aggressive dives. This will help rotate over. I'm a little bit concerned about the consistency, but I think that in the right hands, Janus can be phenomenal. It's just not usually the case.
It's just tough too, because Potato's coming off definitely his worst of the 2 games, right? So he's gonna have to really show us he can make this pick work. Another thing to note, both our junglers have Hog here to start with this time, so keep an eye on where they're choosing to use them. I think it's Revenge Tour that has had some underwhelming usages of their Hog so far, so maybe it'll be better this time.
Yeah, it's been rough for them. No need to sugarcoat it at all. 2 buffs in 2 games with him, but we'll see if Snaddy tries to go for the speed buff. He's inching his way there, but it looks like it got spotted out.
I think that they've got the information on his way as MaIachi. Even Keegs is lurking nearby. Oh, absolutely they know. He walked right over the ward. So this should be good information. They're just going to drop the Tornado for War Machine. So we'll see with this Hog usage to be able to defend it. And this timing goes exactly the way it's supposed to, right? You drop the Hog, get the buff, and then Snaddy has to TP back to lane.
And now if you're on Revenge Tour, I'm asking rotation right here to make sure that you can end up punishing Snaddy for losing his TP early. Force him to back and put him in a bad spot in that lane. I think that's the way to play it.
Secure blue, so nothing too crazy as a result of some of this early pressure. Coming over to the long lane though, Space taking some early damage. We're seeing him off that Jing on the first time. He took the Xbalanque away from DonutDoug, who is instead going to be playing the Ho Yi here this time. So it'll be interesting to see how this matchup goes. They have both been willing to take 1v1s all set though, so I expect there to be some action.
I mean, it's been pretty close just about every time, but Space got the better end once or twice. DonutDoug got in that last game on the Xbalanque. I feel like Ho Yi is one of those that if you're not hitting those big ricochets, it's going to be very difficult to take these fights, because Xbalanque just has really consistent poke with branching bolas. You can't really stand near your wave at all.
Right.
It's Xing Chen is going to poke you out and get out of danger just about every time, because that's kind of what Xing Chen does. This is a difficult lane matchup in my mind for Doug, and to get it easy might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe just kind of stay back. I'm a bit surprised. I feel like we really haven't seen crit from either one of these hunters, at least not in their builds. Jing is going to bring some, kind of just by default, but I'm a bit surprised that we've seen these attack speed sort of heavy builds here instead, as MaIachi is really low over in solo. I'm just looking at the health bar, but I think he should be safe. He's well underneath the tier 1.
He should be able to stack those health chalice and multi-pots, but Snaddy's really giving him the work again on that side of the map, because that's kind of the way this matchup has gone all day. And this is good though that Snaddy's low, kind of low on mana. MaIachi has the lead in potions, and he still has the option to go back and buy his TP, whereas Snaddy is kind of holding this poke and is going to have to walk back to lane.
That's a good point. MaIachi has that advantage as a result of Snaddy's early aggression, so Snaddy's got to get a lot out of it. I mean, obviously the point where he was trying to get that additional value was stealing the speed. It wasn't quite there, so now he's kind of paying back for that aggression he looked for earlier on here in this game. But I expect that we'll see this pace kind of pick up a bit, especially with Jabami on this Ratatoskr. He was really aggressive on this pick back in game 1, and now he might even have potential escape paths out with MySweetPatato on this Janus too. So I don't know your read, but I'm expecting to see JabamiChip step on the gas here soon.
I'd hope so. That's kind of what you're picking Ratatoskr for, but yep. I'm surprised at his lack of blink in that first relic slot. I mean, you've got the beads there. Normally you see that against really heavy kind of dive or CC compositions, you know, a Naja, a Hunbat, something that an Athena, something that you're dead every single time you get stunned or CC'd. It's not really the case on the side for Revenge Tour, and I think that the lack of blink really does slow down a lot of that early aggression potential that you'd have in Ratatoskr.
You're right. I mean, it's a big tool. I know that you want some of that safety sometimes from the purification beads, but I mean, you're picking Rat for this time right around now, and like, you know, kind of like the next 5 or 10 minutes or so is where Ratatoskr really, it feels like, is at his best. So you don't want to let that window close before you've gotten all your value, as MaIachi continues to get bullied in solo, but it looks like he still has not taken his first back yet at this point. He just threw space and time, nearly catches him. I mean, I think you can just throw those. Is there's some trouble for Keeg as well? He's been jumped on in the middle lane, but YarBadKid, even expending the blink, doesn't really find much. Keegs holds on to the beads.
That was close, but I don't know. I'm just such I'm a big hater of Janus ult like that, because
Really?
it's just low percentage and it's such an impactful ultimate.
But if you hit it, you're sick.
If you hit it, you're sick, sure, but I'm sick if I hit the 5-man Kraken. It doesn't mean I'm holding it for it.
Well, Snaddy does still have that Colossal Fury available to try and help him get out of it, but the Odin cage has been dropped. Vamana obviously keeps right on going through that, and even with multiple members ganking, he's still A-okay. Here comes the knock-up from Jabami, and Snaddy's the one that finds first blood. Snaddy continues to be huge for them over in solo.
I mean, you just don't have the potential there to ever kill Snaddy. I know he's half, about 2/3 HP, but he still has ult. He doesn't care at all about Odin. War Machine's not level 5, hasn't gotten a whole lot of damage yet. Vonsonn is a level 5, you don't have that ultimate. It's just not a particularly smart attempt by Revenge Tour, and JabamiChip is right there in order to punish them.
That ends up working really well, and that's another thing you got to keep in your mind, man. Even if JabamiChip's positioning isn't exactly perfect, it's Ratatoskr, man. I mean, he's able to cover that ground so well and get in to help out. Snaddy buys a ton of time on this Vamana too, and like you said, the percentage chance that play works out was always really low, as Doug defends the purple, takes some extra poke, and lets him hear a little bit with some of those taunts as YarBadKid goes on his way. Another good start here for Nunya.
I mean, this is what you expect, that right side of the map going well for Nunya. That's been the case every single game so far. And if I'm Jabami, I'm going right back over to that right-hand side. Yeah. I mean, maybe you can try and camp Keegs a little bit in the mid lane, but it's not exactly a super easy god for you to kill. So I'd really be looking on that right-hand side, because Snaddy has shown the ability to take over games whenever you give him that opportunity.
Looks like he's going to get right into proxy farming here as well. This could potentially be risky. Vamana is one of those guys I feel like can really get away with this. It's hard to commit to locking him down, but there could potentially be a big rotation coming his way. The Kali lurking in the jungle, but they're not going to come over and stop this. Snaddy gets away with this proxy farm easy peasy.
And after that last attempt at a gank, I don't really blame Revenge.
It did not work, did it?
To get their hands dirty on that side of the map. I wonder where Snaddy's going. Probably just checking speed, trying to get that timer, getting back RP timer. And then he can basically sit here for a long time. I just don't know if that's actually exactly perfect for Snaddy, because he's done such a good job of poking out MaIachi so often in these engagements and setting MaIachi up for ganks. You're kind of letting MaIachi off the hook almost with this positioning.
Are you surprised at all that Space is sticking with this Atlanta's bow on the Xbalanque? I mean, we talked a bit about how Jing has some extra movement speed to help out with neglecting those boots, but it looks like Space just likes this build on his hunters.
Yeah, I am surprised, because not only does Jing have more built in, but you can also, with explosive, you can get all 3 stacks of Atalanta at once by hitting the waves. Space doesn't really have that option with this.
Well, there's a lot of fighting happening. Space and DonutDoug going at it yet again here in long lane. There was even some action happening in the mid jungle, and Jabami is still there lurking around to see what he can potentially find, but there's really just not much there. Instead, they'll come down and secure this purple buff in base, strip that one away from Revenge Tour, and just kind of go on their way. Nunya have been aggressive throughout the start of this early game, but I don't know if it's quite as much as I would have expected. As Jabami gets locked down, Keegs has the follow-up damage, and he's got to leave at this point. He's taking too much damage. In fact, he has to use the ultimate just to get out.
YarBadKid's going to be able to pick up a couple, but this doesn't seem like the engagement they really...
Oh, that's perfect!
Kukulkan ultimate is going to flatten Jabami.
He comes back in, and Keegs was right there waiting for him to flatten him with the ultimate. There's through space of time. It does end up hitting one, but really not that much value coming out of it. And now DonutDoug could be in trouble. I think that was the dive bomb and the ricochet, so he has almost no tools left to get his way out of this one. Unstable Vortex finds him, and MySweetPatato gets the second kill for Nunya.
I don't know if that was YarBadKid baiting JabamiChip in or what, but that is definitely not the engagement that Jabami should be going into. It's a really good ultimate from Keegs. Make sure that fight goes poorly for Nunya, but it could have been a lot worse in my mind. It's just too risky to dunk back in on that low of HP. Another not particularly impactful use of through space and time, though, and that's something that I'm going to be for. That's something that I always watch for when I watch Janus players, is how well they're using that ultimate. There are a lot of long-range snipe abilities in the game. None of them move your team, and that's really where I think through space and time gets its value. If you can hit someone, great. I really think that you should basically only be trying to do that in the late game where it actually does have one-shot potential. It doesn't right now. We should be using it as mobility more than damage.
Talk about Snaddy proxying more than fighting. He has built himself up a nice experience lead. Good portal from Potato, but Vonsonn able to escape there. I don't think there were any cooldowns available to punish him any further. So I think that this decision from Snaddy to not so much stick around in lane but to proxy, as long as he rotates with that lead, I think that it could end up working out for him.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to be able to get the buffs uncontested, get backs off cooldown, and just consistently get everything on that right side of the map, it's really good. You get the starving War Machine, and War Machine can't really show up in order to kill him because he's level 7 Kali. That's just never going to happen against a level 11 Vamana. Yeah. So that certainly can work, but it does end up hurting Jabami in my mind, because you could be setting this Odin up for pretty easy kills. I wouldn't have said that going into the set, but with the way that this solo lane has played out, yeah, I think that's certainly been on the mind for Nunya.
It's a big grouping here for Nunya, but they really don't find much. I thought they might have had a chance on Vonsonn, but he's able to use Terra's double dash to make it out of there. Snaddy is currently stripping away the blue buff from MaIachi, so continuing his reign of terror over there in solo lane. But really, it's not even amounting to 2,000 full gold for Nunya here through the 10-minute mark. I think that Revenge Tour are hanging around as ultimate from Keegs does secure those mid camps, doesn't find much else. Maybe he thought someone was on the way, or just wanted to go ahead and make sure they got those camps.
Probably expected Potato to be walking around that corner and trying to get a cheeky steal with that 2 over the wall. It's a low enough cooldown. I don't have too much of a problem with it.
They'll have those often, as long as they're not expected to fight anytime soon. They do look to try and lock down War Machine. He gets pulled back, but managed to avoid getting actually pulled. The through space and time, again, really doesn't find much value, and Revenge Tour make it out of there. Nunya are looking for opportunities. They're just not always getting them.
That's a big beads, but really another really good play by YarBadKid. Perfect situations with that ultimate. He's been positioning himself very well. Impressed.
Well, this is how they capitalize on that pressure in the long lane, if they can find this gold fury. But for now, it's been leashed. To the sky goes Jabami. He finds nothing with that knockup, and Vonsonn is stuck in an absolutely terrible spot. SweetPatato gets the kill, and Nunya does manage to convert that into a kill. And now here's Snaddy going aggressive at Keegs. There are literally 0 options in that spot. But Revenge Tour, they're the ones that get the fury. How does that happen?
Snaddy was thirsty for the kill on a Keegs, and he got it, but it meant that he couldn't be there to out DonutDoug. Doug gets a big steal in order to keep Revenge Tour in it, because it was looking rough right there for that spot, for that order side. But Doug again kind of makes a big play, steals it away.
These hunters have both been playing really well, and I think we haven't quite given DonutDoug quite enough credit, as he does manage to find that steal. Now Snaddy forced into the Colossal Fury here in mid as he took the fight up against MaIachi and War Machine. He'll just use that Colossal Fury to walk away now. No more kill potential exists for him there. But that's a huge fight for Revenge Tour. They cut that lead in half. But Nunya want to come up and try and strip away the speed. They do so successfully. But now they're going to have a fight. Big ultimate comes through, but doesn't really find a whole lot. Instead, the rest of Revenge Tour got to decide if they want to chase here.
And I like the idea from Keegs. I think that he had the positioning and everything.
It looked good, didn't it?
Just a frame or two too late in order to not clip both tanks. But honestly, even if that ultimate hits Finch, I don't think it's doing a whole lot for him. He doesn't have a whole lot of pen, 10 flat pen from Enchanted Spear. Snaddy is just going to be naturally tanky enough to withstand that at this point in the game.
Vonsonn ends up being AFK, makes it right back to the mid tier 1 tower. So despite the fact that Nunya lead 4-1 in the kills, take a look at these charts. The gold is relatively close. Now that experience deficit is absolutely a big deal. Almost 4,000 experience. I imagine most of that's in the solo lane. Snaddy's been ahead of MaIachi really throughout the entirety of this game so far, but you kind of, I think with this draft, you've been wanting a little bit more from this lead.
I agree. I think that the Ratatoskr just hasn't been effective enough so far. I mean, only 2 assists for him, no kills. He's even pretty much in farm with the Kali. He's about 300 gold, same level. That's not enough in comparison to the best early game jungler, to one of the best late game junglers.
Yeah.
That you're not getting enough of a lead there to really keep War Machine down. You've got a little bit of a lead in that solo lane. You've got a little bit of a lead in ADC, and then a little bit of a lead in mid. So you really just want to try and fight around those. And really, Jabami should be able to still make an impact and just lean on his teammates' leads more than his own, which is usually the other way around in comparison to what you have normally with Ratatoskr.
MySweetPatato really does hold more of that XP lead than even Snaddy does at this point, I feel like, man. So yeah. I don't know if through space and times that you're hoping clip is how you want to be spending that lead, if that's kind of the only place it is, while Snaddy gets caught by that root. I don't know if that was intentional. Still manages to steal the speed, though. Snaddy's been a monster this set. I don't know any other way to classify it.
Level 16, by the way. He gets to do whatever he...
And it looks like what he wants is to continue harassing. They do find one. He gets knocked up, and Keegs just gets deleted. There's the unstable vortex value as the Janus starts to show up for him. Finds the portal, too, that locks down Vonsonn, but they're out of cooldowns to continue the chase at this point. So Nunya take their pick and leave.
Getting picks onto Keegs is big, because he's going to be the one that gets Revenge Tour back into this game damage-wise a little bit earlier than War Machine can. I mean, War Machine will be the late-game hyper carry that you're looking for, but you kind of need that guy in the mid-game right now to start making plays, and you'd think that it's Keegs now that he has a little bit of pen, a little bit of anti-heal. Maybe he can try and be someone that can do some damage to Snaddy, but not looking likely at this point. Level 16 for him, and now with the High of the Urchin, this is where Hyde, I think, is very good.
Yeah.
You're able to get it early. You're going to end up rotating these team fights, getting these stacks pretty consistently, and it's going to give you good protection against Doug and War Machine. Snaddy looks like he's building into a little bit more magic defense right now, but I'd love to see him pick up an anti-attack speed item, either Midgardian or Witchblade or something, because eventually War Machine's going to be able to chew through him at the end.
You're right. It's not going to be easy for him up against this Kali. And I think that that's kind of the thread we're following right now, right? Is has Nunya does enough with getting MySweetPatato ahead, with getting Snaddy ahead, to kind of make up for the fact that they're going to be dealing with a Kali and a Kukulkan in the late game, supported by a Terra who feels really good in those late game fights too. It's just a question of, is this enough? As Snaddy continues to battle in the enemy jungle, I think he's done with this engagement, though. He falls back.
Speed buff coming up, so that's where he wanted to be, but it looks like with that pressure, this is going to pull, knowing speed buff is that pulls Revenge Tour towards speed buff, which is very far away. So with that pull, Nunya's going to, instead of going for the buff, knowing everyone's going to be there, going to all go towards Pyromancer, which is very smart. This time Snaddy does a great job zoning, doesn't bite off too much, is just there to farm a little bit, and that ends up in an easy Pyromancer for Nunya.
It does end up working out for Nunya quite well. So they are starting now to push that lead out a little bit further and get to themselves a decent spot, 2,800, 6,000 experience. This experience lead is getting legitimately out of control, even though the gold lead hasn't really expanded that far. And I feel like we don't see this a whole lot, where one of those metrics gets a lot further than the other one, but we're seeing it here. Maybe it's because Nunya really only been getting kills or something like that.
Maybe. It's been a lot of farming, but Revenge Tour is getting some decent farm, just a couple camps here and there consistently going to Nunya. The big deal, and no one, you know, Snaddy's got a 2-level lead. That's relevant, but not huge. It's really that Snaddy has a 4-level lead on the enemy mid. That's where it gets really scary.
Well, this Primal Fury at half, it's Revenge Tour that started this one up. And now MaIachi look to see if they can maybe lock down Snaddy, but I don't know, man. He's level 18 on this Vamana. Now they're using this portal a lot better to get Snaddy right to the backline so he can try and stick to them. Goes up to the Colossal Fury. Keegs' ultimate does find Spaceeee in the back and bring him down to half, but Vonsonn is isolated. MySweetPatato cleans that kill up easy as you like. War Machine comes back. They're going to try and lock down Snaddy. Doug is the one that gets the kill, able to use that ultimate for the Kali to get away too, to make it 1-for-1.
Ooh, nice blank from MaIachi as well. MySweetPatato underneath the tier 2 tower, but just short of damage on Doug and MaIachi. You want to talk about best case scenario? You trade your for their level 18 or 19 solo laner who's been dominating you all game. That is huge for Revenge Tour. Now they just have to worry about not losing the Primal Fury.
They're not in the best shape to try and defend this. Keegs doesn't have his ultimate available to him either, and the Primal Fury is getting low. MaIachi can't get there in time. Nunya secured the Primal Fury, but MaIachi wants to keep it the chase. Nunya are low on mana and HP, so Revenge Tour smelling weakness start the chase. But YarBadKid gets a good portal from SweetPatato. That's how you got to play Janus, and gets him out of there.
Much better Janus fight for SweetPatato.
That whole
is
fight,
how
yeah.
Everything about that was so much better than what we saw through the first parts of the game. A little bit unlucky that he doesn't insta-kill War Machine basically with that ultimate, but hey, we take those either way. Really good use of that ult to get his support out of danger. And Nunya, not as great a fight. That's the type of fight that you think, okay, we can win the off of this engagement. We know that the Kali isn't ready to go yet. She's not ramped up. We've got a big lead in mid. We've got the opportunity to get a bunch of kills and get a Fury. To only get one kill in the Fury is not really enough.
Ooh. Fire Giant being started here by Nunya. Do they really have enough in advance to start this? There's only 2 members that are nearby to try and defend this one, so Nunya feel comfortable taking this fight. And they've actually gotten Vonsonn and MaIachi down relatively low. They've dropped the Earth and Fury trying to keep the fight going. In comes Jabami, but again, this is a Terra and an Odin. They haven't been able to do enough damage. Now YarBadKid is starting to be low. In comes the Kukulkan, including War Machine, finds the very first kill of this engagement. Revenge Tour have turned this fight entirely on its head. JabamiChip can't come in either. He's way too low over to the side, and everyone on Nunya is running away.
And I don't know if this is going to be enough for Revenge Tour to pull fire, but they certainly did enough to keep Nunya off it. I like the idea from Nunya. They see a bunch of people on that left-hand side. They've got a ward on the enemy purple. They saw both War Machine and DonutDoug on that side of the map. You'd expect Keegs is probably backing at that point, so they get a good opportunity, but good job by the front line of Revenge Tour playing heads-up smite, knowing that could have been a Fire Giant.
They did it basically by themselves, and Snaddy ends up falling. War Machine still had that Destruction ultimate available, and that's enough to buy time to get the kill. Now, that's 2 in a row for Snaddy. Remember, he is a lot of their early game lead. They had a Ratatoskr, and basically all that amounted to is that Snaddy and Potato were ahead. If that starts to diminish, then suddenly they're just even in the late game against a Kali Kukulkan.
Yeah, that's not where you want if you're Nunya. I mean, losing Snaddy there, luckily for him, War Machine doesn't get that kill because that would have been a big bonus gold for him. He's way further behind than XP. It is better in those moments to give your lower XP carries the kills because that does end up mattering. It's even better because I believe that the assist gold calculates off of the kill gold, which means that by War Machine getting more kill and experience, then the assist is worth more, and it was his target, so it would have been extra gold on that front as well. But c'est la vie, that's kind of the way it goes at times. The Kali doesn't get the shutdown kill, but still he's ahead of the Ratatoskr now at this point. That's huge.
And you gotta wonder with Nunya, that was an ambitious Fire Giant call. I mean, I think they were right, they had the numbers advantage, but it was just too much defense there for Revenge Tour. They weren't able to DPS it down quickly enough. And the experience gap, because that's the bigger metric they're ahead by, not nearly as much gold. That's only like 2,000. They're getting closer and closer, that meaning nothing, especially with it actually shrinking. But Snaddy's almost level 20, SweetPatato is almost level 22. Not 22, but 20 as well. I mean, Revenge Tour, they're getting inching closer and closer to being right back into this.
This is bad news for Nunya in my mind. I also don't like the way that Snaddy's going with the build. More damage is not what he needs. He needs the ability to be in the backline as long as possible. And that would have required a Nemean Lion, a Midgardian Male, even a Witchblade if he doesn't want pure defense. He wants a little bit more offensive potency. Going for what is probably going to be either a Stone Cutting or a Masamune, or maybe even a Hasten Katana is not the way to go in my mind.
I think we just saw War Machine use the blink. He went in aggressively on the JabamiChip as Pyromancer is brought down low. Revenge Tour secure that objective. Not the biggest deal in the world, but certainly you want to get everything you can. Cursed Ankh dropped, and that's enough for Snaddy to go up on the aggression. Space commits his ultimate as well, but Revenge Tour have given up all of the positioning. They've fallen back. But it's not as if Nunya are looking to try and capitalize on it either. I think this is a fine fight.
And this experience lead, not only is it shrinking, but it's also becoming less at the exact same time. It's kind of shrinking in 2 different ways. And I mean, MySweetPatato is not getting any more ahead in XP. He's level 20. So now it's only up time for Keegs to start catching up in that department. And that's going to happen sooner rather than later. Honestly, Finch, I mean, even though the graphs tell one story, I think that Revenge Tour is in a very good position. I think they're the favorites to win this game by a pretty considerable margin.
I have to agree with you, man. They just have the picks that are going to be doing better at this point in the game. Now, clearly what you just saw from Snaddy is that he's still more impactful than MaIachi here at this point, but I think everywhere else down the charts, you're feeling better about Revenge Tour right now than Nunya. I don't know. I mean, Xbalanque feels pretty good late game too, so we'll give him a tie there. It's really the mid, that 3v3 where Revenge Tour are feeling better.
I agree. I mean, Janus has great late game potential, but very little penetration here for SweetPatato. Don't really like the Divine Ruin very much. It's going to be tough for him to do enough damage to these tanks.
Snaddy on the retreat, Colossal Fury forced out from him early, but it's in trade as MaIachi dropped the cage. They are considering this Oni Fury, and by considering, I mean they got a half. They do end up dropping it though. Space takes quite a bit of damage. Stun ends up landing, but what about Keegs? He needs some help in the back. He finds the ultimate, and that peels JabamiChip off him. That's huge. Keegs makes the play in the backline to stay alive, and now YarBadKid might have overcommitted though. He throws War Machine forward, but War Machine has the ultimate available, manages to stick alive, but Snaddy's right there to clean him up when he comes out of it. The first kill goes to Nunya.
But Snaddy's still pretty much full HP. Keegs able to find space, but you'd think Snaddy's going to be able to eat.
Keegs is trying to find his way back out of the fight too. Snaddy shuts him down. Snaddy's still having a pretty good game, finding two. Might even be able to get three as DonutDoug is quite low. Goes for the ricochet, but the cage keeps him out of there. So in comes Jabami. Buys him time though as MaIachi gets a one kill to try and even these numbers back up. And now Jabami being hunted down. He misses the spear and can't keep up with that dash either. So Jabami might finally have made it out of there. The leap doesn't get him into range, but he can find it with the three to lock him down for one more. Snaddy gets another kill, though, single-handedly keeping Nunya in this game.
No one ever was able to turn and actually do relevant damage to Snaddy in that team fight. He chased away from up towards purple buff, then he was able to go, oh, DonutDoug. My jungler did his job. Got him low, I can finish him off. Oh, what do you know? Another low member that I can go and kill. It's just tough for anybody to get away from him now.
Snaddy now sitting on top of DonutDoug, who's waiting on that dive bomb to come back up, and now the abilities should be there, but good peel comes in from War Machine, buys him the second that he needed to get the dive bomb up, and Snaddy not able to complete the kill. What a play from War Machine, and now they're going to be able to lock down this Vamana, who doesn't have the dash, doesn't have the ult, and MaIachi over commits in the wrong direction, and War Machine now trying to keep up with the dash and can't do it, so he's going to leap in instead, but he gets caught now and comes through space and time, and gets caught by the Whirlwind of Rage and Steel, a comedy of overcommitment as MaIachi makes it over the wall, but chasing his SweetPatato and gets the kill.
All right, I like the idea from Keegs, but not able to find that execution. And again, low enough cooldown on the ultimate, maybe you can one-shot him later, that's a play. But you called it, man, it's just too much chasing on the side of Revenge Tour. They're just looking for these kills a little bit too much, and Snaddy's a very, very fast Vamana. Now with that stone cutting sword and with that witch blade, that is a lot of extra movement speed on already one of the fastest base movement speed characters in the game.
And this has just been a little bit too much here from these guys. They've been chasing quite a bit on the back of these fights. Now Nunya considering starting the Fire Giant here aggro. Vonsonn still nearby. They did a good job defending on the FG earlier, but Jabami takes to the sky considering finding an ult, but Fire Giant's been leashed. That's Jabami's ultimate. Largely wasted. He doesn't get much value, and Snaddy poked out front too. Nunya did not get much out of that at all.
And remember, Nunya had a lot of trouble beat these sustained compositions in the last game, the Hell and Terra together. Still have the Terra there for Revenge Tour, so even though they think that, okay, maybe play, they were a little bit poked out. Again, we're kind of checking the tires on whether or not that this team is going to be ready to defend a Fire Giant at any given moment. As soon as they show up looking even a little bit healthy, courtesy of that Terra, it's gonna be a retreat pretty quickly.
But right now, I mean, doesn't it feel like Nunya's chances are hinging so much on Snaddy's performance? I mean, that fight around this last Fury, I mean, I feel like that was almost all Snaddy, considering some of the nice plays that Keegs and War Machine and Vonsonn were able to make. I mean, how do they take this Vamana out of the fight sooner?
You gotta be able to dump everything onto him a little better than they have.
It's been hard for them, but the action won't let us talk about it much more. Keegs in trouble in the backline, has to use all his relics to buy some time, but Jabami ends up cleaning him up, and Keegs takes a spill. The portal sets up for good follow-up damage on Vonsonn as well, as Snaddy has made his way to the backline, but they've got it cursed on. Stop him from sticking around. Ricochet doesn't find much, and Nunya should be able to regroup.
War Machine is still lurking, though, and knowing that Snaddy has no to chew through, this Vamana. It's not going to be easy, but might have a chance.
Might have a chance to try and keep this fight going. MaIachi has made his way into range, trying to defend, but War Machine takes quite a bit of poke. He has to disengage as well. MaIachi cannot find the stun, so Snaddy wants to keep up the chase, but the cage stops him in his tracks. MaIachi not gonna let him get to his backline.
I mean, the idea now is use that curve. It's got to come away or there. I mean, very end of the
Fire Giant is being started up here, and MaIachi really the only one around, so they're just gonna try and lock him down. They lock him down easy peasy. Snaddy is the one that gets the kill credit for that. They go right back to this FG and start burning it. It's at half HP. Jabami takes to the sky. He's the one they're gonna let do a lot of the zoning work, and there's no way for Revenge Tour to make their way in. Nunya secure the Fire Giant on all 5 members, and they can start pushing.
Their space and time went through, but didn't end up finding anybody. But now he's in a bad spot, and these portals are perfectly placed.
And War Machine has to use the ultimate just to stay alive, but they all group up from the ultimate from Keegs. He's able to flatten 2 members. DonutDoug comes in as well to find 1 more. And now it's just JabamiChip left alongside Snaddy trying to get some kills. He's in the Colossal Fury trying to get the Hunter. Does manage to find that 1 kill there as well. But Nunya, they had Fire Giant, all 5 members. Now they could be the one that are sitting back on their heels.
Yeah, they had Nunya business trying to chase that fight down after they fire 3 members and 3 very, very key members at that. Just a bad idea, man. I mean, chasing kills was a problem earlier for Revenge Tour, and now Nunya having the same problem.
And that was such a big opportunity for them with Fire Giant for everyone to go collect these towers. There's so much still up on the map. They could have extended this gold lead out and maybe had one final chance with this team comp and its big relevant stages to get a fight. Instead, Revenge Tour hold on. They wiped 3 members, and now they can try and get War Machine back online and fired up a bit more and turn these fights around.
That buys them so much time because it's a 5K lead or so right now for Nunya. Experience is becoming less and less relevant as we go, but you feel like this lead was about to get a lot bigger if they would have had Fire Giant on 3 members, including Space in this game. That would have been huge in order to get him that Fire Giant, allow him to really down these towers quickly. Instead, Revenge Tour is in a spot where they can contest a little bit.
Yeah, I think they should come out for this next Fire Giant fight in the next 3 minutes. I mean, I don't even know if there's going to be another big team fight before we make it to that point in the game here at this point, as Nunya has lost the Fire Giant, the most relevant people. Snaddy and Jabami still have, and they can make use of that sustain. And I said they might not group up for fights, but look over at the left tier 2. There's 3 members grouped up on that side. I think Nunya are going to try and force this one down, and really Revenge Tour are not in position to defend. They did manage to grab at least 1 tier 2.
That's important that Nunya get at least 1 tier 2 because it opens up push opportunity. That's the big thing here. The gold is a little bit less relevant, but it's really that now if they win a team fight cleanly, they've got a path to the title.
Should be able to make it in relatively easily, as 5 members of Nunya are grouped up right around this mid tower. Jabami takes to the sky and is looking for some aggression. It's got to be Keegs. The call is YarBadKid goes right for him. The ultimate doesn't find much, but neither does Jabami. He will catch Keegs on the backside of that Xbalanque ultimate. Keegs has been able to worm his way out of there, so Snaddy goes to the Colossal Fury to see if he can grab one, but they're starting to melt this Vamana in the late game. Has to use Thorns just to disengage. Nunya will settle for the tier 2.
But look at that space that he just created. I mean, he gets everybody underneath the Phoenix to turn and look at him. Even a couple ultimates dropped onto him. That's a good play by Snaddy to then understand that his role is also to live in that moment. This is risky though, Finch. Trying to go for both Gold Fury and Pyromancer at the same time. That is not the type of lead that Nunya have.
Primal Fury, they're going to have to give up on that one. They're just going to have to settle for the Pyromancer here at this point, which they are able to secure relatively cleanly on the right side of the map. But now they don't quite have the numbers for this fight at Primal, and they want to stick around to at least defend it. That is certainly risky. So War Machine just goes in aggressive. That forces Nunya to disengage. Revenge Tour give up Pyromancer, but they get the Primal.
It's risky to even stick around. You called it, because as soon as Revenge Tour hear that Pyromancer, there's on that right-hand side in order to get it. So a bit of a bad decision that doesn't end up getting punished too much on the side of Nunya, but they're still in control now, Finch. I mean, they've got a pretty solid goal, 2 paths to the Titan now, but it's not game over by any stretch. They've got a late-game Kali there for Revenge Tour and a late-game Kukulkan that's pretty close to that full build. Either one of those can pretty much instantly win Revenge Tour the game.
They can, but I mean, I don't know, man. I thought Revenge Tour were going to be able to make a bit more of a comeback than what we saw here. Nunya have put themselves into a pretty good spot around this next Fire Giant fight. And this is what they want. They want to catch some members out, force some relics, force some cooldowns that won't be there for this next Fire Giant fight to set them up favorably. Especially because as long as Keeks has his ultimate, it's hard for them to commit to that FG. It can always get stolen.
I will say both these mid laner builds are not well equipped to dealing with tanks at all. And that's really what Keeks' build really allows YarBadKid to blink on him every single fight, because it's pretty much impossible for him to take damage from Keeks. Even if he gets hit by the ultimate, 10% pen is not enough for Keeks at this point in the game. 10%, a little bit of flat from that Divine Ruin, 15 from that.
Yeah.
Just not enough. I'm not a fan of the...
MaIachi does manage to jump away from trouble happening in the jungle, so Nunya won't be able to lock him down. Vonsonn, though, is stuck too far forward, does manage to get the dash off to escape as Jabami commits the ultimate, is considering going back in, but I don't know if there's a great opportunity. Doesn't find anything with the knock up there, so the Rat ultimate largely wasted here on this late game team fight, as MaIachi continues to get aggressive up against Snaddy, interrupts him over in right, but he doesn't win this trade long term. Instead, YarBadKid has picked up DonutDoug and thrown him forward. I think even got the beads, but Jabami's low. The Kali has found him in the backline. That is a huge pick for War Machine.
That's huge. That's exactly what you want your Kali to do. Get in the... Somebody was even able to hold on to the ult.
MySweetPatato, though, finds the punish, ends up deleting him in the jungle. Keeks drops the ultimate, does find some good value there, and forces Snaddy out at the very least, but Revenge Tour have fully grouped up. I don't know if either team feels comfortable trying to start the FG at this point.
Man, that fight would have been so good if War Machine presses 4 at any point during that team fight, but yeah, I mean, normally you trade jungler for jungler, not with the 34-minute Kali. You want a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I think Nunya came out ahead. They're starting up the FG. MaIachi and Vonsonn have done it once before. They must delay the Fire Giant yet again while the rest of the squad catches up. Maybe they don't have to delay so much. I don't think Nunya are going to stick on the actual FG. YarBadKid's trying to keep it leashed, but he's just taking a ton of free poke here for no real reason. I don't know how realistic the Fire Giant is anymore. Now he's half HP. MaIachi still trying to frontline to lock him down, drops the cage, and there's Kings also knocks up T, but Space had the Aegis to live through it, but he ends up falling. Vonsonn gets the kill for it, and Nunya, I think, bit off too much more than they can chew. Through space and time, though, allows for SweetPatato to flatten down Doug.
Now he's going to have to try and make a play, though, and it's going to be difficult. Snaddy right there to help him out, but a blink in from MaIachi.
SweetPatato ends up falling. Snaddy gets the double kill, though, continues to keep this game going for Nunya. Looking for MaIachi, has the knockup, but doesn't quite have the damage to follow up for the kill. In comes the knockup from Jabami, though, but instead, he starts trying to find a War Machine to see if they can get the kill to him, and War Machine still standing, still has destruction available, gets the kill on the Snaddy, and is now looking for the reset. I think Jabami made a miscalculation, and War Machine gets a double.
I mean, War Machine would have died to that dart again without... but... ended up not getting hit by it. Genius play by him to just dodge the dart, and so you didn't have to use that ult. But another great ultimate from Keeks, a good cage from MaIachi. Vonsonn had a big double stun at that same time to set up SweetPatato and Space for damage. That was well played.
Sick beads means he doesn't have them now, and YarBadKid makes his way out of there a little bit. I mean, I suppose he does avoid the root, but he was already in the knockup when those came out. A good fight, though, still from this Kali, at the very least, to keep this game alive. And now we're to the late point where I don't know if Nunya can win the fight by enough to feel comfortable coming back and grabbing these Fire Giants. If Kali or Keeks is still alive, they represent so much threat just by themselves.
Exactly. That's the horrible. That's the really hard part about this game, is that now you have to really avoid 2 insta-lose conditions. Kali gets to pop off at a team fight, or Kukulkan hits a really big ultimate. Nunya has to do everything right and still avoid those 2 things, and that's hard to do.
Fire Giant being started by Revenge Tour, and they've got Space over-committed. Easy cleanup kill with the Xbalanque, and this enhanced Fire Giant is still leashed at this point. Revenge Tour still considering starting up the objective. Now, Keeks can do damage safely from over the wall, but Jabami is on his way. He's in the ultimate. It's delayed in terms of getting here, but goes right to the back line to halt the DPS. Doug drops down the Suns to try and cut the fight in half, avoid the Whirlwind Rage and Steel thanks to beads, and they actually get the kill to YarBadKid. They're holding on our Revenge Tour in this late game fight.
Snaddy's finally able to get Doug, though, and that means that you at least lose your ADC, but Snaddy looking for Keeks as well. What a double kill for the Vamana, man. Snaddy is popping off.
Yeah, however this set goes, I don't think you can. I mean, Snaddy, you can't say anything about the performance that he's had. Jabami now locked outside the cage. No way he gets out of that one as War Machine gets a double. It's 3 left up against just SweetPatato on the side of Nunya. And is this enough damage to do the Fire Giant? I mean, Kali is a lot of sustained DPS, and MaIachi can tank it, so can Vonsonn. I think they can do this.
Yeah, but War Machine's hunting kills instead of going towards the objective. His blink is coming up, and he's got the stun on SweetPatato.
Oh, SweetPatato is absolutely in trouble. Once he comes out of that portal, another easy kill for War Machine. So, hey, as long as he gets the kill that quickly, then it's easy for the team. And now they're closer to maybe being able to wait on DonutDoug to come up and get some of this Fire Giant here as well. It's just the Galaxy Brain plays really from War Machine. That's really what it is.
Very, very, very smart. Yeah, this Fire Giant is going to take them a little bit. Stacking these magma pools on melee range give War Machine a whole lot of options on when to go in.
I don't know if they can stick around.
This is getting a little risky, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's Galaxy side.
And it's really, if Space shows up there, it's really, really bad news. But Space decided that he thought that fire was a foregone conclusion, and instead went to Oni Fury, which I think is a very reasonable expectation.
I agree. I think that Space probably made the right call in every situation except for where they do the Fire Giant that poorly. So unfortunate, but I mean that's still a good scenario for you, right? Because they don't get fire. So
yeah, now you have Oni waves,
right,
which is huge because now it forces them to clear out side lanes, and this gives you an opportunity. No way that Nunya can pull fire with any sort of comfort level with these Oni waves coming out, but you can certainly get positional advantage and start setting out wards and setting up for a good engagement on your side.
This should be, though, a decent play for Nunya potentially to try and make around those Oni waves. MaIachi and Vonsonn just kind of trading blows. You'd think they'd want to wait until everyone was over here, but look where War Machine is. They should know he's all the way in left, pushing up that lane, and that Nunya has the 5v4 advantage here over in right. I don't know if it's worth rotating over there and maybe just take the fight.
Absolutely. You take any fight that Revenge Tour will give you at this point. I like this idea. Pull fire and just force them to come to you, but problem is, this is giving War Machine enough time to back, and he's already a little bit too close to really take a full-on fight.
I agree. I don't think they really have that much of an advantage anymore. Fire Giant about at half, through space and time, committed from SweetPatato, but I don't know that he found a whole lot. Keegs does force out the Aegis from SweetPatato. DonutDoug manages to somehow get back out of there. Keegs is still alive too, avoids the Unstable Vortex, but can't get away from YarBadKid. He cuts him off quite nicely. And he's able to take that Kukulkan out of the equation. But what about War Machine? We said it's a two-headed snake. You have to deal with both of them. War Machine gets the first kill on a 7-kill streak here at this point. Might have a chance to lock down YarBadKid too, but Jabami locks him down. That's a huge kill for this Ratatoskr to be able to get. That's the two that they most need to take out.
MaIachi is still low, but almost has YarBadKid dead. Xing somehow survives at just a sliver of HP. That's clutch. The Revenge Tour is able to hold on there a little bit longer because that looks like a game-losing fight potentially going against them, but they somehow kill War Machine and then not able to find anybody else. Still managed to find the big one, which is that late game Kali.
Clearly, any fight without those two in it looks so much better there for Nunya. You could tell Revenge Tour just entirely dropped out without those two guys. And now Nunya, I mean, they're missing probably the best person you can have up in space with this late game Hunter sustained DPS, but they are going to pull this Fire Giant even without him. Snaddy is on zone duty trying to keep Vonsonn out of here. Meanwhile, the rest of the squad will do their best to burn without the Xbalanque. It's slow going, but eventually they'll get there. Look at how healthy their health bars are, but Vonsonn's coming in and trying to contest. MaIachi's here too. I don't know how comfortable they can feel going for this FG.
This is a bad FG call, Finch. They just don't have the DPS to really do it.
And clearly it's going too slowly. Xbalanque ultimate does come out. His space is finally back up, and the Fire Giant's low. Through space and time is too early for the confirm. Nunya do secure the Fire Giant, but that's a big ultimate from Keegs. He comes through. SweetPatato and YarBadKid are all low. They lose Jabami. They lose SweetPatato. Suddenly a 2-for-0 in favor of Revenge Tour, and they can just push off the back of this.
Man, that mantle stun on MaIachi was clutch, but this is huge for Revenge Tour. Sure, you've got YarBadKid in space and Snaddy with that Fire Giant buff, but you've got a cursed Ankh on your side. You've got a lot of anti-heal to try and keep them from on in the first place. That means that sustain that Fire Giant gives you isn't going to be nearly as relevant. Just a bad call to try and go for that enhanced Fire Giant without your Hunter there. It's just you're going to take too much time. Even if you don't take too much damage, it's going to take too much time, and Revenge Tour is able to march in and take a fight.
And look at the Kali. She gave up on the tier 2. She's going to try and loop in from where that mid Phoenix is. Space does good work to take care of Vonsonn, but they got to keep tabs on where the Kali is. Finds Space in the backline easily. It pops the destruction. That way she can stand. Gets the first kill. Turns towards Snaddy. Leaps in. And gets the second for the full reset. That's huge. That could even be the game here at this point, aggro. Now as the Kali gets the triple kill, I think that is it. Revenge Tour managed to turn the game around and shut down Nunya for the win.
Yeah, if you haven't watched a lot of competitive Smite before,
goodness.
and you're not really sure why we talk about Kali having the potential to win games by herself late game, she's another assassin, blah, blah, blah. No other assassin does that. The full reset. I think the Phoenix shot was on its way to kill War Machine when he landed that jump and gets the full health reset, triple kill for him at the very end. And it's really just a bad Fire Giant call, Finch. Ends up really, really punishing Nunya there.
I 100% agree, man. It's like you said, it just took way too long for them to do that FG. Then the rest of Revenge Tour were able to show up and back them up. And you got to keep giving credit, I think, to the Terra play as well as to the play from their solo lane too. I mean, they were able to continually delay those Fire Giants time after time, give room for the rest of the squad to show up. I think Keegs had a pretty good Kukulkan ultimate there on that last FG too, and they're able to just push off the back of it. Just a miscalculation, I would say, from Nunya on that last FG.
Agreed. The front line played well. I really think on both sides, frankly. I mean, obviously, Snaddy had a hell of a set, 12-5 for him in this final game, but I thought YarBadKid played incredibly well on the Xing Chen. I think that the carry players on both sides had some low lights, so to speak, in every single game of this set, but ultimately the carry players of Revenge Tour are able to make it happen a little bit better here in Game 3, particularly, of course, War Machine on the Kali. 40,000 damage for him is really impressive. And you compare that to JabamiChip's 14,000 on the other side.
Wow.
Pretty easy to see the difference.
That almost can't be right? 14,000 in like a
I bet it is.
minute game. I mean, that's not enough. That it just ain't enough. And we said it throughout the early game, right? That the Ratatoskr wasn't doing much. Essentially all that early game pressure amounted to for them was a 2-level lead for Snaddy and a 2-level lead for Potato. And that is big, but they were not able to capitalize on that enough. And they were stuck in this late game against the Kali that they couldn't contest.
It's just one of those ticking time bombs that eventually it will have the opportunity to insta-win their team the game. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen every single time,
right,
but the door will be open to that sort of win. It's a lot like having that hell where eventually the potential is there to just insta-win in the late game. You might be able to beat it anyways, but it doesn't mean that you should ever try and put yourself in that position. It's going to be a lot harder.
It made life a lot harder than it had to be. What about Potato on this Janus? I mean, we had some talk at the beginning of the game about how Janus doesn't always give as much value as you might want, but I think he started transitioning into those team fight through space and time instead of for damage, and that helped.
It did, but the big one is that one of the last team fights where he tries to dissect the team fight from the horizontal way and kind of ults on that big rock that's near blue buff, and it just doesn't hit anybody. The portals aren't relevant in that team fight. That one really hurt, I think, Nunya. So overall, a couple really, really good ultimates.
I think so.
He did a lot of damage. He got a lot of kills. I don't think he had a bad game. And remember, Potato, if my memory serves me, is a jungler for the most part. So playing this Janus in the mid lane, I think he did a serviceable job. Certainly wasn't a primary reason why they lost. But there's a reason why Janus is historically very hard to play, very hard to win with. It's because even having one or two bad fights in the late game, one or two bad ults, is going to make it that much harder for you to win. It's kind of the opposite of the Kali, right? Where even though you're doing more damage and that kind of stuff, it's so inconsistent that if you have one bad team fight with it, it may lose your team the game.
Yeah, it's essentially like they're fighting down a man in some cases, right? Because it's so hard for that Janus to find his value. That means congratulations, though, to Revenge Tour. After that game 1, I would not have thought we were saying that, right? I mean, Nunya came out of the gate hot. That game 1 was basically a stomp. The picks and bans were so bad for Revenge Tour, but they fought back in games number 2 and 3. And really, it's kind of rough for Snaddy, man. I mean, it's hard to have a performance like that across all 3 games and still lose, but that's just how the cookie crumbles, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah, this is the MVP goes to the losing team. It doesn't happen very often, but Snaddy certainly looked like the most valuable today. Overall, well played by Revenge Tour. It goes to show how important picks and bans are in MOBAs, man. And mine in particular, it's very hard to win if you give the enemy team a really, really strong composition, and we saw that in full display in Game 1.
That's right. Now, I do also want to say that, we're going to be trying to still bring you all as many games as we can here. That was the open circuit here for North America. That was the final. So that is done. We are going to be trying to bring you all some SCC games as well. This is just the beginning of kind of this look here for us. So there might be some kind of growing pains to it, but we're working it out a little bit, I'd say.
We're getting there,
We'll figure out how to get more Mac in there too. I think that'll help out a lot.
Yeah, I think she's sleeping on the couch right now. I was going to call her in here. She's not going to listen. Let's be real. She's comfy, I'm not going to interrupt that.
No, we can't stop that. So I do appreciate all of you for watching here today. I know it was a bit of a different look, but I appreciate you all bearing with some of the stuff that was there that wasn't quite up to what you all might have normally gotten there from us. We're going to be trying to bring you all the very best that we can. And shout out to Jithins, man. He did a lot of this work essentially by himself. So huge shout outs to him. He did great here for us today and helping us still bring you all some good Smite action there as well. So appreciate you. Aggro, good job from you as well, my man. We appreciate all of you
thanks, man.
for watching. Yeah, happy to say it. From what I could hear, you sounded pretty good. That's the Open Circuit Finals coming to a conclusion for you today. We appreciate you all watching. And as always, we'll see you next time.